Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Lefty against righty, the 3-1. Swinging a fly ball, right field. This one's deep, way back. Got a chance. Gone! Nick Maton got a fastball in and did not miss. 3-run home run.
LeBron's got the ball. 35 seconds remaining. 10 seconds to shoot. LeBron driving to the rim and in. Toss off foul. LeBron flexing in front of the crowd. And the Lakers lead 113-108.
Ball's loose. Bam! To Jimmy. Get up. Throw down. 44 on the board for Butler. And the Miami Heat are up one.
Her foot into the corner. Played it back to the blue line. Over it goes to Willie. Back it comes to Giordano. Giordano shot. Scores! Scores! Mark Giordano! Scoring! The pass off the wing. And the shot from the blue line was deflected right at the goal. But the Leafs win it in overtime.
Daniel Sprong scores already in this game. His shot was blocked. Everly gets it in the slot. Schwartz. Everly scores! Jordan Everly. Game 4. Overtime. Winner! From up 2-0. Tied 2-2. 3 minutes into overtime. The Kraken even the series at a pair apiece. Final score 3-2 Seattle.
Or not so much? No?
What's up?
Are you good?
I can't control my volume at all, so the music and stuff is real loud in my ears, but I can hear you, so that's what's important.
Is that good now?
It's good. Now that the music's off, it's terrific.
Yeah. And I'm being controlled by button 3 and not button 4, so that's always fantastic. Welcome you in on it's going to be a good Tuesday. Going up on a Tuesday. I have no idea what happens. I don't know if it's gremlin. A guy gets agitating, right?
What
so you
does?
It's always something.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, whoosah, because we are going to go up on a Tuesday.
That's people worry about like AI and technology taking over, and it's like, I can't get my normal technology to work on a day in, day out basis. I'm not going to worry about the machines taking over quite yet.
Dude, AI is going to be scary. Well,
it is a little scary,
it is scary,
right? You can use it for some weird things for sure.
Shane, who's the race car driver whose family just had a meltdown over AI? I think they're going to sue. He was in a wreck a couple of years ago and hasn't spoken since. Is it Schumacher?
It could be.
Oh, you don't really know though, right? All right, let's not spread this information.
It could be.
I mean, what does that even mean? It could be. No, we're not going to be like some other show, Shane, and just speculate and be dead wrong. Fudge. Oh, it could be. Yeah.
Good morning, Damon.
No, don't good morning me.
What's up, Shane?
You beat it, little dude.
Like the Kraken beating it down last night.
I tried to tell you. Kraken get a dub. They came out in fuego.
Yeah.
Pressuring the Avs like crazy. Avs settled down. Kraken got to stay out of the sin bin. Rantanen makes them pay, and you're thinking going into the third period, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Could it be an avalanche? Nah.
Well, it doesn't help when you put 3 guys or 3 power plays in the first.
I know.
You're gonna get scored on eventually.
Special teams in the playoffs is unbelievably telling, right? And just like the Leafs, they were like 1 of 14. Then all of a sudden, I think go 2 of 5 or 3 of 5 last night.
Yeah.
To come back against the Ning dynasty, which was an unbelievable hockey match. As the Leafs take a commanding 3-1 lead, that city went crazy. And I've spent multiple times in Toronto.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. First hockey live deal that I saw in the NHL was in Toronto.
Oh, so that's a whole other experience.
Yeah, this was way back in the Ty Domi days, and he got whipped by Chris Simon up there from the Avs, coincidentally. But man, that town, that's a hockey town. Well, that is a hockey city in Toronto.
It's a good sports town in general. You see how they get behind the Raptors.
It is.
Like, and that's a low-key, really good sports city.
And, Ravi, you don't often fire a great coach like Nick Nurse and seemingly get another good coach in Udoka. You know, so if
Udoka's going to Rockets.
Oh, he's going to the Raptors.
Did I misread?
Yeah.
Did I get my I get my R teams confused?
Well, no. It is the Rockets. I thought so.
He makes more sense with the Raptors
because they had the early reports.
Yeah.
And
they're probably closer to competing.
I keep hearing that. I keep hearing that, but would you take the Rockets youth or the Raptors? Like if the Raptors,
I don't know how I feel about Jalen Green, so that's kind of the crux of the situation.
Oh, don't tell that to Micah.
What was that?
Oh, he likes him some Jalen Green.
Well, listen, there's a talent there.
But he likes Scotty Barnes too out of that class.
I like Scotty Barnes probably better than Jalen Green. I just don't know. I think there's a decent chance Jalen Green could be one of those guys that puts up 25 points a night on a bad team his entire career.
Yeah. That seems to be the Rockets' way, though.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's, maybe I'm projecting onto him from past Rocket, misgivings in terms of how they handle players. But I think at this point, I'd take the Raptors core over the Houston potential. Because right now, the only guy that you really feel good about on Houston is Jalen Green, right? And you're hoping, hey, we've got some draft assets. We can do some things. But you've got more guys that are actually NBA players in Toronto. I mean, Barnes and Siakam by themselves.
For sure. Now, if they stay healthy.
Yes.
But again, the Rockets are a team coming off 22 wins. So do with that what you will. It's a good night in the association.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Listen, and
I mean, the Bucks are in trouble.
So I did some New York strips and some fillets on the smoker, like 225, which didn't turn out to be a good deal because immediately upon eating, warning for those of you at home, I haven't felt great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my asthma, I don't know what it is, right? I just can't get it together with this crazy coughing and my asthma. And I had a fantastic New York strip, pulled it off about 130, 129-ish. We're looking forward to it. Went down amazing. Came back up 6 minutes later.
Oh, you in a good mood or what?
And all its glory.
Ooh,
and I was coughing and I was kind of having this attack and I was like, shoot. All I could think of in my head, I swear to goodness, this is real time. I didn't want to taste the steak coming back up. Right? Because I hadn't had it long enough for it to not.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst part about vomiting is
well, for me,
texture.
For me, it's the burn, right? Because you get the acid coming up.
Yeah,
it's the burn that I don't.
Wasn't a lot of that. So I had a staff meeting last night.
Yeah.
And I took it down to the wire. Yeah. Like it's a good thing he didn't hardline us to be on time because it was 6:30. But I showered again. Like I didn't pull out of my driveway until like 6:13.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I live off of Harrison and he's 200 and something in Dodge.
Oh, so yeah, that's a little trip.
So I was like, man, I don't want to be late. He's already fired up this off season, but it was cool. A couple guys came in. So I got there at like 6:30 on the dot, but man.
Yeah, that's rough, man.
So I'm starving. I thought about getting up last night after the Lakers OT win and eating.
Yeah.
But it's out of my window, so I didn't.
So was it just like you were coughing and it like caused you to have?
Yeah, I was just really nauseous. So sometimes and people that use a buterol or Venolin or whatever, like sometimes when you get a little carried away with your inhaler, it can make you a little
Oh,
queasy.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so, man,
And then putting the food on top.
Hey, yeah, I was messing up the collection plate, man. I was like, I wasn't puff, puff, pass. I was like puff, 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 puff.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, I was messing up the rotation.
You were hotboxing it.
That's something different, and okay, that's only one mildly disgusting topic this morning. That's it. Go to your room. Stay in that little Snoopy doghouse you got over there.
We should put a
do you
roof
see how
on it. We
he
should
needs
put
to
a little
open-
roof on
I
it.
know he needs to open the window.
That's because he doesn't want to hear us.
Yeah, I know. So,
All right, it's great to see everybody. Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you. Wow, fantastic show coming up. Let me set the lineup first where I was going with that steak story is everybody else had tenderloin. I had the strip.
Okay.
There was no bone,
Mhm.
obviously, but I do have one to pick with you.
With me?
Oh yeah.
Well, what'd I do?
Oh, say no more.
Listen, he was one game.
No.
I knew as soon as that happened, I was like,
No.
he's going to come at me on Jimmy Butler.
No, because I tried to tell you.
No.
I'm not saying he's going for 56, but you poo-pooed the guy's offensive game.
No,
and in the
all
playoffs,
I
it's
said-
whenever he gets ready.
All I said about his offensive game is I don't think he can be your number one if you're winning a title.
I gave you an out clause. I even said,
want
so
it.
are you
I'm
saying
not taking the next
like
example.
running the offense through him? Because you could definitely
No,
do that,
primary
and you weren't having it.
No, primary scorer. If he is your primary scorer, I don't like your chances to win a title.
No, that's okay.
That's all I said.
No, because you're basing it on the fact he's not going to get a ton of offensive help. If he had a number 2 or a good consistent 3, you wouldn't say that. You just know how that roster's built.
No, I felt that way about Jimmy Butler for a long time.
And they call him Jimmy Buckets.
That's fine. Listen, Chris Middleton's a bucket too. They're essentially the same player in terms of offensive game.
Ooh, I don't know about that. Middleton just doesn't put it on the deck enough for me.
He doesn't, but they end up with a lot of the same shots and a
Yeah.
lot of the same results.
The
from those
degree of
shots.
difficulty.
Yeah, they take a lot of really difficult mid-range shots,
Spoelstra called
which can be.
Jimmy Butler one of the smartest players he's ever seen in the NBA.
That's fine. I'm not saying he's a bad basketball player.
No,
I'm
and I don't
saying
think you are.
there is an elite group of guys.
Should I have got the bone in ribeye?
Listen, the bone-in ribeye is incredible.
it's my favorite, but
I love a ribeye in general.
Yeah. I'm just trying to use all the cuts that we have.
Sure, that makes sense.
Just to freaking grab some
And
hot
this-
fries and
I was not feeling it, so I just looked to see what was closest on the top shelf
Yeah.
in the freezer. And another funny side note, I didn't think I was gonna love the way the meat was packaged.
Yeah,
Because when I got
because
it,
you bought like a side of beef, right?
Right.
Yeah.
it was in like butcher paper.
Yeah.
I'm like, shoot, man.
Which is pretty common when you buy that.
But the
quantity.
first time I did it, it
Oh,
was
did they
all
vacuum
it's
seal?
all vacuum
See, that's
sealed.
nice. That's unusual though.
So I thought that was the way to go, right? And everybody was like, well, I got a couple old heads. I was asking my buddy Matt Milliken. He's kind of old school.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Matt, should I be upset that this is like in paper? And he goes, no. He's like, that's the only way to do it. But he's also a guy that doesn't like electric knives, doesn't want to use a meat slicer.
See, if you're freezing it, I think vac seal is the way to go.
So, but here's the deal. So as I'm getting into more of the meats, it's got plastic wrap around it. So it
on the
looks
inside?
yes.
Oh, well, that's fine then.
Oh, it thawed.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I don't know, at some point, just this beautiful red color.
Yeah.
I was like, this is going to be okay.
Because you can't just do butcher paper if you're freezing it.
And that's kind of what I was thinking. So I was terrified.
If it's plastic wrapped on the inside, you're okay.
Listen, I have not been disappointed. It is way good.
I'm usually ribeye guy. I think the best steak I've ever had in my life was a New York strip.
So, I mean, I'm surrounded by filet people.
I'm not a filet mignon guy.
Even though, like,
it's okay. Like, it's fine.
I used to make fun of my guy, Oklahoma Tyler, because, I mean, he won't eat anything else.
Really?
Like, no, it's like he doesn't even, that's a whole nother story. Like, what he likes, he likes.
Yeah,
like, he's
sure.
not going to try a bunch of new things,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
He likes to kind of bat 1,000. And I was like, it's such a small cut of meat, and
It
it's this, that, and the other. And
I don't think it has as much flavor.
I'm just telling you though, man, a good fillet is.
No, it's really good.
I haven't like changed my. I'm still a ribeye guy.
Yeah,
but a good fillet, and this was actually so the kid like I know my kids are eating like beef tenderloin. That's how they cut it up. They cut up the roast into to little tenderloin fillets, and they weren't quite big enough. Like I think Caleb had 2, and there were only 4, right?
Sure.
And so we had to cut into the strip for Micah's second go around, but yeah, the whole Jimmy Butler thing is driving me bananas.
So honestly, the thing, obviously he's got huge upside in terms of he's capable of things like this, right? But on a consistent night in, night out basis,
it's the playoffs, though.
I understand that, but what has he done as the primary on a playoff team?
I understand.
You have the one finals appearance in the bubble. That's it.
Everybody wants to hashtag bubble.
That's because your team won it in the bubble.
So you remember you asked me off air yesterday about, and I don't know if you were going to get to this today, about enjoyable sports teams and stuff.
Yeah.
Even watching the Lakers last night for me was not enjoyable.
This is what I wanted to talk about.
It just is not enjoyable.
Because I feel the same way about the Warriors. I was watching the Warriors on Sunday, right? And I'm watching your Lakers last night. And there's just times where it's like, yes, I want them to win, right? I want the Warriors to win. You want the Lakers to win, so that they can keep playing and maybe win a championship and whatever. But I'm just watching them. I'm like, I don't enjoy this as much as even when they're winning. I know. I'm with you, and I want them to win. Don't get me wrong. And I wonder. I think it's a thing that's happened as I've gotten older.
Yeah,
where my enjoyment of watching them is almost as important as the results.
So I think you have to kind of get used to this a little bit, especially as the NBA, who kind of started this deal of the short contracts and then weighing your options for third-year options and stuff like that. You get used to a team playing away for a couple of different years or a couple years in a row. Then stylistically it changes.
Yeah. Well,
right. And you're starting to see it in the NFL now, shorter contracts, bigger money guaranteed. Like you may have to kind of roll with 2 or 3 year windows of style of play.
Which is why in the NBA, I've never been married to a team.
Oh, I am.
And I know you are. And people hate me for this. They get so mad at me.
It's okay. What's our age difference?
I'm 35.
So 13 years.
Yeah.
So you're still kind of you're in that could be old soul range though.
And I am about a lot of things. But for whatever reason with the NBA, I like basketball too much to consistently watch bad basketball.
So are you cool like with, and we'll get to this later on, with like if you were a Packers fan, do you all of a sudden root for the Jets or something like that? Would you do that?
It depends.
Because you're a Niners guy.
So for the NFL, I've never switched. Like I've never hopped around. And I don't know why it's just a specific basketball thing for me. I don't know if it's just because I'm such like a basketball guy that it like actively bothers me to watch bad basketball. Not that I enjoy watching bad football, but I don't know if it's easier to ignore with the 49ers.
You know what I think you do? I know what I think it is. I think you appreciate just winning in the NFL, no matter how it looks, more than the NBA.
That's probably true. Because the NBA, I want it to be beautiful.
Yeah. Like and it's 82 games. And it's like, oh, God, how long can I put up with this?
Yeah, because like I can watch something.
17 in the NFL, you're like, man, lucky to get one.
Like once a week, I can be like, this is not good, but I can get through it.
Yeah.
3 times a week is like, hey, this is a lot of commitment if I'm not going to enjoy watching this team play. And I think I've been spoiled with basketball as well, because most of my life, the Creighton has played a pretty appealing style of basketball, and that's who I watched the most in college. And then, I watched my first memories of watching professional basketball are Michael Jordan, so that's not bad. And then,
did you see LeBron go full LeBron last night?
In which part?
And overtime late in the game? Yeah. He went full on LeBron.
He did.
How about the block party? I saw a gaudy stat last night. Lakers are averaging over 8 blocks a game in this series.
Well, it's kind of one of those things that people forget about, that the thing that we were sure about AD was his defense when he came in.
Yeah.
Like when he got drafted, they're like, generational defender.
I can't stand watching him.
No.
If he fell on the ground and grimaced one more time or hobbled up the court.
So you out on Joel Embiid too? That man falls down more than ever than
the
Life Alert commercial.
Embiid walks like it's just
like it hurts.
It hurts, and maybe it does.
It probably does
because we take being 7 foot and getting up and down the court for granted because we watch Giannis, but dude, it's got to take a toll. So I understand. I just hate the facial expressions. Like, knock it off.
Well, that's part of it too. Like, it's even though they've got good games, it's still not. Because it looks like it's painful for them, it's still not fun to watch necessarily. I don't like watching the Sixers because A, I hate James Harden, but B, everything Embiid does looks like it is some sort of like labored, like late career Arvydas Sabonis movement.
Yeah. I just watched Rantanen last night get hammered into the boards. I mean, he smoked. He got smoked, right?
Yeah.
He grimaced, got up, was a little slow. But he skated like a regular person, man. It's not like nothing's happening to these guys like that on the NBA. You don't even see that in the NFL where guys get smoked.
But in the
NBA, it's like, oh.
But again, nobody in those leagues is 7 foot, 300 whatever pounds.
But you are talking about guys like 6'6", 280.
You're talking about big guys.
I mean, those are big guys. Moving fast.
They are. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but how do those guys walk the rest of the week?
Yeah, but those are like high level collisions. I went down this dumb rabbit hole. I couldn't sleep worth. I felt like crush. So I was watching this Colorado, Nebraska night, and I forgot like Uyghur was like 6'5", 3 and some change. Like he was a big dude, kind of.
Yeah.
And I look at him now. And he looks like he's on like the Atkins diet, right? I saw him this weekend, and it's like
he's going full keto on you,
or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. I wish you liked hockey more because the beauty of watching. Speaking of winning ugly, how would you like to be a Bruins fan? I was joking yesterday during the show. They're winning with like their
B effort. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, right. At one point against Florida. They were being outshot by like 14 shots on goal. And they were up 2 goals.
Yeah.
It's like 40-27. And it's like it doesn't matter, right? And so I think in other sports, it's okay to be ugly. It seems like in the NBA, we hate it.
I wonder if it's the freedom of movement thing. Like, because it's such a free-flowing kind of game
supposed
and action,
to be.
I think
that's why you hate the olden days because you thought it was too muckety muck.
It is too muckety muck.
Oh,
a lot of it.
Stop.
Listen, I know you go back in the 80s and you get those like Nuggets teams with Kiki Vandeweghe.
Here we go. Here we go.
You know, and your Showtime Lakers.
It's only Tuesday, bro.
I know. You got to deal with me for like 3 more days. You know, like I understand you get into the 80s, you get into some free flowing, high flying times, but people that pretend like early 90s basketball was like a good hang.
Oh boy.
Like get out of here with that.
Stop. Coming up on the show is we're live from the H&H studio. I'm just trying to I got to pace myself because I don't want to have an aneurysm this early. I told you I'm still hungry on an empty stomach. On Coffee and Cream coming up, Brandon Vogel. It's a mini Big Ten whip day.
That's right.
So we'll talk to Doc. Scott Dochterman, get an update on Iowa. Ben Worgull. We'll talk Wisconsin as they had their spring game. And Joel Lorenzi.
Our guy.
Yeah. A lot of guys tested NBA waters, right? With Kaluma and Trey and now Keisei Tominaga as I first got it from Robin Washut. We'll talk Ian Flint. He's in. The Aaron Rodgers trade. Omaha, Nebraska baseball. We got a ton. And you're mad about people getting buffaloed with Deion Sanders. We'll get into that. Coming up on Coffee and Cream, Michigan Lance, Mike, stay right there.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes.
Brings it into LeBron.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Schroeder brings it into LeBron. LeBron, top of the key with Xavier Tillman on him. LeBron drives to the rim. He's going for two. Lays it up and in. Less than a second remains.
Yeah. LBJ going for LBJ late. I gutted it out because I'm all about the Lakers, not the individuals. I don't enjoy watching him, but I enjoy dubs, not your dubs.
You don't enjoy my dubs? They're fun to watch.
No, they're cool. By the way, yesterday along 108th between L and Q, you've probably seen it. Have you seen the Dub Nation vehicle?
Yeah. I saw him out at Village Point one time. I took a picture.
Listen, this dude, I don't know if he recognized me, but I didn't even have my windows down.
Yeah.
He rolled down the window and he wears he had these I think they were like tinted shades.
Okay, yeah.
He rolled them down, looked at me, and tipped his cap, rolled the window, and turned left like an OG. I said, "Oh,
It's like that.
That's what we're on
like
today."
That.
Good afternoon to you too, Dub Nation. I mean, just picture me rolling.
I don't know that I would ever do that to a car.
Dude, he's a total Cali guy. Did you see all the bumper stickers?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you guys had San Francisco in common. I saw a San Francisco sticker.
Yeah, the Niners.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and that's kind of coincidence just with the Bay Area thing, because I was going to root for wherever Steph went to.
Yeah. My sister lives about 6 minutes from the Bay Bridge, and she has gravitated towards the San Francisco side, not the Oakland side.
Yeah, well, it seems like everybody has gravitated towards the San Francisco side.
Niners, Giants.
Yeah.
She doesn't do the Oakland thing, really.
Well, it seems like everybody's leaving Oakland.
Yeah.
I mean,
including the A's.
The Warriors already did. The A's are on their way out.
I'm glad we still get along on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Gonna get some good baseball weather tonight as Omaha takes on Nebraska at Tal Anderson. Your guy too,
my guy Porter.
Yeah. So you went to school with some high quality folks.
Yeah. So we graduated. Me and Evan graduated the same year.
Brunsey. I mean, this star-studded.
Brunsey was a couple years older than me.
You could tell he's more mature.
Yeah, obviously. Although if you met my brother, you wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, that's an incredibly mature individual."
You and Coach Porter have style in common too. We had him in studio a while ago. He had on some flat fronts and a nice little. They were gray with the white belt and the Omaha gear. I said, "Oh."
So I haven't probably talked to Evan in a while now. We did, I think, a little bit through college, but that's not. So it's been, I don't know, probably a decade at this point.
Well, you guys get famous.
Well, I don't think you would know this now because I see him in his like public appearances or whatever. He was like a really funny guy.
He's funny. So low key, he is funny.
Yeah,
like he is. He's easygoing,
super easygoing. Like
that's why
really
he can
laid back.
That's why he can recruit.
And low key, like really, really funny.
He can recruit.
And I don't know that that comes through publicly very much.
Yeah. I like him. I like
No, I was thrilled for him when he got the job.
Metro guys love him. He is he's beloved.
Well, and I think he understands and appreciates, because I think this is something we talked about when we were in high school.
We as in you guys?
Like me and him. Yeah, if I remember right. I think this is a conversation I had with him where he really appreciates the talent there. Excuse me, the baseball talent that's in Omaha.
Yeah, yes, he does.
Especially because that's not something that's always been appreciated to that level.
It's close to being self-sustaining for a lot of the in-state school. It's legit.
It's and it's been that way for a while, and just not a lot of people gave it that due.
And it's not often. You'll go tonight, and hopefully you get out and watch good baseball. You'll see 3 top 150 prospects.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Max,
got some
Bovey and
he's gotten
Matthews.
some dudes into Omaha, which is awesome. So yeah, I always am rooting for Evan.
Nice. Let's go to the phones. Shane, are we going to Michigan or are we going to Money Mike?
Roll the dice. It's going to be.
Let's go to Money Mike first.
Okay, we can do that.
Mike, good morning. Welcome into Coffee and Cream. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's up, buddy?
Damon, I so enjoyed having the opportunity to meet you at the players practice a month ago. You were just coming in with your son, I think.
Oh yeah. What's up, buddy?
Hey, listen, I want to just congratulate you and Andrew. I love your show and what you guys are doing. So it's fun.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, listen, I wanted to share something with you because I always enjoy your conversations because you're very cerebral, and there's something I want to run by you that I think that could be of real value to Nebraska athletic program. I'm sure you're familiar with the Wonderlic test, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Well, Wonderlic, his daughter is Kathy Colby. Kathy Colby got in a serious car accident many, many years ago and had to work off her instincts instead of her IQ. So she has a really, really high IQ, but she had to work off her instincts and developed a concept called conation. And I think it has a lot of application to athletics and sports teams and situational football, but it hasn't really been developed that way. And she did something with the Phoenix Suns. I don't know if you remember the Van Arsdale twins when they played for the Phoenix Suns. That's probably maybe before your time.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not sure.
That's 70s, right?
Yeah, and they weren't competitive in the NBA. And Kathy had never seen them play basketball or anything, but helped them do an co-nation evaluation and told them to draft these guys. And they did, and then they ended up competing for the NBA championship. And what I thought, if you'd be interested, I'd just like to email you, forward an email to you, and you can look at this. And if you want to have some more conversation about it, I'll put my phone number in there, and then just give me a call back, because I really think with the sports lab at Lincoln and Matt Rule's philosophy of improving the kids, I think it could give the football team a real edge that isn't being used at the sports level at all.
Fantastic stuff. Here, it's easy. Just Damon, Damon at Hurrdat, HURRDAT.com.
DAT, okay.
Yep. HURRDAT.com.
DAT,
yep.
Okay. Hey, I'll do that, Damon. Thanks for your time, and great guys are doing a great job, and look forward to talking to you. You have a great day.
I appreciate it. You used to play in Nebraska. He's in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
Michigan Lance, what's up, buddy? Good morning.
Hey, funny fellas, how y'all doing?
What up?
Man, my man Ravi gets it about LeBron.
Oh, stop.
BB,
now he's your bestie.
I can't agree with somebody.
Yes, you
that
can.
Understands.
Yes, you. That's what I do appreciate about you. You're an equal opportunity offender and lover. That is
most definitely.
I'm serious. He is.
Yeah, I'm not these other people that has to stand by their. I'm not. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but if I'm right, you better give me my props.
Stand by your man. What's up, LeBron?
Oh yeah, see what I mean? This is what we gotta be. LeBron fans always have to be riding them and this and that. And come on, man. Like, what? I just don't understand, DB. Where are you at now with LeBron James? Why don't you still like LeBron James?
Listen, I love. That's not too strong of a word. I love everything about what he's doing at this age, his competitiveness, whatever. You know what I don't like? It's this. You know this about me. I don't like the style of play.
Aesthetics.
It's just not aesthetically pleasing to me. Is that shallow?
Okay, I got you.
I don't love his game. It's a must. I just don't like his game.
It's the same reason I don't like Harden. I don't like, and it's different styles, but.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Ravi.
I'm not going to say he's not talented. I'm not going to say that he isn't. I don't think his style works in the playoffs for Harden specifically. But the reason I dislike him so much, I just don't like watching him play basketball.
That's my thing, Lance. That's my thing.
Okay, I got. But you do. But okay, but you get within that. You can acknowledge not just his age greatness, his totality.
No, 1,000
greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. It's the exact same way I feel about Emmitt Smith.
Oh yeah, not.
Oh yes. Well, yeah, but Emmitt Smith also if you switch Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith, does Emmitt Smith have the same career?
No, I don't think so. They run. I'm talking about the way they look. They run.
Yeah,
it's just it.
I'm with you, but. No, I'm with you. Listen, but Emmitt Smith also needed a lot of help with his line to be that great. You know what I mean? Like, there was other, Troy Hambrick would come in and get 100 yards every time he stepped on them. So, I mean, it's not only the style with Emmitt Smith, but it's also the results of, could you do this somewhere else?
He was a great player, though. He's a great player. Is he?
I think he had a great team. I mean, he had a great team. He was a good player on a great team. I don't know about greatness.
You got off to such a good start.
I'm glad we could get along today, Lance.
Appreciate the call coming up.
Hey, thanks, fellas.
From Hail Varsity.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes.
How's your first walk in the...
Here he is. Holding that ankle area. Gosh dang it.
How's your first walk in the tunnel?
Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
How did your first walk in the tunnel live up to the hype?
That was amazing. Seeing all those little kids there, how much they're excited to be see a Cornhusker football game. The last 24 hours have been surreal. Hanging out with Coach Solich, Tom Osborne, Heisman Trophy winners, and then this for our players is amazing.
Coach Rule enjoying himself. Just soaking it all in as we welcome you back to Coffee and Cream in the Morning. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet
He kind of always seems to be enjoying himself.
Sponsored by the Beanery. Are you enjoying your nice coffee? Your iced coffee?
Yeah, you know, I always get that ice blonde.
Yeah. Don't get Shane started. He does seem to be enjoying himself. He's very tense on Saturday.
Yeah. He said what? He woke up super early, right?
Yeah.
Just could not get.
Yeah,
he's like, I guess I'm done sleeping tonight.
He makes your boy look like Rip Van Winkle. And you know I don't sleep.
You don't sleep for anything.
Yeah, he's got me looking like Rip Van Winkle. But somebody that looks very refreshed and up and at 'em, probably already written about Ian Flynn. If not, I'm sure it's coming. As we welcome in the managing editor, the guru, the numbers junkie, if you will. All hail, my man Brandon Vogel. B. Vogues, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
We are hanging in there. We're friendly, debating back and forth with one another just about everything, like whether the sun actually came up, whether you need oxygen to breathe. If you can debate it, we probably have this morning. We are not quite seeing eyeball to eyeball. How about you?
Yeah, I don't have anybody to debate with, but I think this is a good thing for you guys.
Wait, the kids aren't up, or what? Well, like what's going on?
No, the kid is already at daycare.
Hey, you're not going to daycare, but Daddy, I don't want to go to daycare. You're going to daycare. Hey, so kind of rapid fire. You heard the post game comments from Coach Rule. How'd you pit it against what you saw when you know that that's somebody that always has a message that he's trying to convey?
Yeah, I mean, I thought as far as the game itself, there were some good things to be seen there. I also kind of came away thinking like, there's a ways to go, I think, before they're, to use a Matt Rule term, as good at football as they want to be and need to be for this season ahead. And Rule's done a pretty good job of telling it like it is for the most part, from my perspective. But you're right, there are moments where he's trying to communicate something to somebody. So I mean, really for me, it was kind of mostly that post game. I thought it was a successful spring game Saturday. We'll see how this next week goes for them with their player meetings that are ongoing at this point. And I think you can go into the off season feeling pretty decent about the ground that they covered, at least.
Brandon, did you have expectations of what you were hoping to see for the spring game? Because I think I walked away, and I don't know that I was alone here, I think I walked away feeling a little underwhelmed, but I don't know what I was expecting. Did you have an idea of what you were looking for going in?
Not a lot. And some of that's a year one thing where it's more a let's see what we can see versus, a year from now, I'll have an entire season and kind of have some more probably expectations. But I've also found, I think the best way to go into these spring games is as expectation free as you can. So, the offense for me, in terms of maybe the feeling you're talking about, Ravi, of being a little underwhelmed, like the offense didn't seem all that crisp overall, which is fine. Jeff Sims, I thought, started a little bit slowly, but kind of picked it up. On the good side, I thought the running backs ran about as hard as I've seen some people run in the spring game for a while. Ramir Johnson on a day where the two defenses combined for 18 tackles for loss, didn't have any lost yards. Granted, it was 6 carries, but also that tackles for loss kind of jumped out to me as well. But it's always is that a good thing or a bad thing when you're playing against yourself?
It's interesting because I told Ravi yesterday, I think quietly, the MVP of the spring was Tony White. And it's for a multitude of reasons, but the top two being didn't have a great connection pass relationship with Coach Rule, was allowed to bring a couple of his guys, so there had to be a certain level of faith, that goes with that. And he made some things that we were concerned about, at least early on, a non-discussion, like depth along the D-line and tackling, right? Those two things did not seem – they didn't enter my frontal lobe. Could I make the case without overinflating it that White was better than advertised?
I don't think that's overinflating it. Defensively, that first team defense, the offense, even though, it didn't feel all that crisp, moved the ball pretty well, created scoring opportunities. Now kicking might go in the underwhelming category for sure.
Weird for a guy that finished 8 of 9 last year. Right, like he made 8 of his last 9 last year.
I mean, although I guess we saw it 3 years ago with Connor Culp's back-to-back seasons.
All good points.
Yeah.
Don't take it for granted.
But no, that defensively, I think, I mean, like everybody, I think I came away impressed by some of those youngsters on the defensive line. MJ Sherman looks like he could be what I think they were hoping they were getting there. Again, it's one practice football game, but they kept points off the board largely. Gave up some yards, kept points off, and I agree with you. Like Nebraska was going into what would have been the 2021 season, defensively, Nebraska had been an awful tackling team the year prior. And I thought they got a little bit better and those point totals came down. Now, defense the past 2 seasons was far from perfect, but they were getting closer. If they can become a better tackling yet again team, I think that's the shortest path defensively to them making some real gains right away.
2 unsung heroes from a year ago. They're gonna get lost in the when we write books and stuff. Mickey Joseph and Bill Bush will get lost in the discussion. Bill Bush kind of cleaned up a lot of the scheme and gave guys a little more confidence down the stretch. Remember, they had the 3 shutouts going in at the half, and Mickey Joseph with the competitiveness and getting him to hang in there when they weren't really competing, and what he did on the recruiting trail to bridge the gap. Those 2 guys are very, very underappreciated, in my opinion.
I would agree with that, particularly on defense with the change that Bill Bush was able to effect in his time in that role. I really felt like by the end of the year, and it wasn't one of the Big Ten's best defenses. It's a tough league. If you're one of the best defenses in the Big Ten, you're one of the best in the country. But I think they were getting everything they could out of that defense by the time they got to that Iowa game.
Brandon, I wanted to ask about, you mentioned a couple of the newcomers, specifically Cam Lenhart, Princewell. Those guys on the defensive front there, I thought really showed out. When's the last time you can remember there being true freshmen in the program that looked like they had that much disruptive potential on the defensive line?
Oh, true freshmen. I don't even know if one immediately comes to mind. I mean, Ndamukong Suh didn't play as a true.
Hey, we almost called Suh a bust. Revisionist history talks about his
but
greatness.
He didn't break out until a junior year, right?
Spring post the ankle surgery, and we were like, what do we got to get from Suh? You're right. Suh wasn't that guy. David took a while, and he was coming from junior college. Gregory was coming from junior college.
I mean, like, when's the last time they recruited out of high school a disruptive edge player?
It's like I said, there's not one that easily comes to mind. I mean, the first one was Randy Gregory, who was good the moment he got to Nebraska, but he wasn't coming from high school.
Yeah.
And it's if they can get anything close to what they got out of those 2 in this spring game throughout the season, boy, that really changes the dynamic for me, at least on the defensive line.
How about the secondary? Like, so it's crowded, right?
Yeah.
Our house in the middle of so I mean, or maybe it's more the clash. Should I stay or should I go? Like, not everybody can be here. How do you trim the fat when you're still kind of knowing that guys are on the come?
It's tough unless you're in Boulder, apparently.
Yeah, wow. We'll get to that next hour.
Because, defensive back is one of those positions at Nebraska that I think they consistently recruit pretty well. And I think the results, whether you look at it at guys' college career or guys that go on to the NFL over going back a good amount, backs that up. So the talent there is typically, I think, as high as it is anywhere at Nebraska for the most part. I think that's the case now. But I think you're just going to have some tough conversations depending on what happens elsewhere, of course, to get that number down. But I think, we all have a good idea. Well, we know the starters who are coming back, but I really do think they're gonna play a lot of guys on defense. So for those guys who they don't want to lose yet, but are maybe saying, well, I'm not going to see as many snaps this year as I want, maybe you can convince them it'll be a little bit more.
Yeah, I apologize for backing up with 40 seconds, but I look at the wide receiving core then maybe, right? Because with all the young guys coming in, and Doss is almost game ready, I think. We know the prowess of Coleman. Do you think the wide receiver room may be the first to have casualties?
Could be.
It was kind of underwhelming.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, look at the passing numbers. And, that's not all quarterbacks all the time.
Good stuff. Brandon, we appreciate it, man. We didn't get you long enough. We're going to have to move you to the big slot. Always good at what you do, man. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
It's the main man, the managing editor from Hail Varsity. It's Brandon Vogel. Coming up next, we'll start a mini Big Ten whip and talk the fan favorites, the Hawkeyes, up next.
Go.
Usual situations where, we played against him as a starting quarterback a year ago, December. So we'd seen, his body of work. We'd seen his film during the course of the season, and obviously got to see him, live and in person, unfortunately, at the wrong end of a score. So we were really impressed with him on film. And then, when you're on the field with a really good player, you usually can feel that and just kind of sense that. So, to have him on our sideline right now is, I'm not sure how it happened, but I'm glad it did. I spent 6 years in the NFL, and it's kind of getting like, a playoff quarterback or a Super Bowl quarterback from another team to come join your franchise. That's a pretty good deal. Doesn't happen very often. So we're really excited about that. I think he's got a chance to be a great player. More importantly, he is a really strong presence. He is a leader. That's, a key component of that position. And, he's got a resume, which, it's not somebody we're projecting. He's got a resume, and I can't think of a situation like that I've ever been in as a coach. So that's been great. He's had a really positive impact on our team. He did everything but teamwork this spring, and can see a lot of good things there. So we're excited about that.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Usual situations where, we played against him as a starting quarterback a year ago, December. So we'd seen, his body of work. We'd seen his film during the course of the season, and obviously got to see him, live and in person, unfortunately, at the wrong end of a score. So we were really impressed with him on film. And then, when you're on the field with a really good player, you usually can feel that and just kind of sense that. So, to have him on our sideline right now is, I'm not sure how it happened, but I'm glad it did.
Welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning. My man Ravi Lulla filling in admirably for Andrew Rogers.
Just doing my best here.
Well, he'll be covering the draft, so he'll be our correspondent later on this week. That is the head Hawkeye and talking about Deacon Hill. Will quarterback play be a thing for Iowa?
We'll see, I guess.
Well, let's ask the doc. TikTok. Scott Dochterman joining us. Scott, good morning, man. How are things?
Man, things are great, Damon. Doing well. It was an interesting spring over this way, and kind of juggling that and a bunch of draft stuff. So that's kind of been my whole existence this spring is big picture draft and Iowa football.
Seems like the Athletic is everywhere. And I know, listen, they commandeered a ton of good writers like yourself, but do you kind of like the range that you have? Because, like I said, the outfit, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I do. I now some people prefer, and some people just do concentrate on their beat, and I could do that if I wanted to. But I'm kind of I've been a draftnik my whole life, and I've done more than just Iowa or Iowa State, and so I like the fact that I get to exercise that muscle, if you will, and then. Women's basketball wasn't so bad either around here the last year, so I'll take that one as well.
Scott, I'm a little bit of a draft nerd myself, so
all the way.
Yeah. So when you're doing draft stuff outside of the Iowa kind of tie into it, I guess what's your favorite part about doing the draft coverage? Is it kind of the lead up? Is it like analyzing players with fits? Like, what do you like most about draft coverage?
Yeah, it's probably that. I spent a lot of time. I kill some trees. I have notebooks that, I'm old school, and I don't use Excel as much as I do notebooks, but I try to go through, see the fits, see where people, line up, as a, like, I guess I'll go narrow here with Lucas Van Ness. He's a 4-3 guy. He's not a 3-4 guy.
Yeah.
So, okay, which are the 4-3s that make him look good? And, like Chicago, probably Houston, those are the two that kind of come to mind. And I try to make that fit. And then when you get later on, then you start to analyze, okay, how do they, what are some of the better possibilities, not just specifics. So yeah, it's been really fun. I enjoy that part probably as much as anything.
There's certainly worse places to go than to be a DN in D'Amico Ryan's system, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's been terrific in San Francisco. He's a great player. I think he's going to do some really good things there. I think they're probably the most interesting team in the draft, really, when you look at it, because there's been so much discussion that now they're not going to go quarterback at 2. So are they going to take Will Anderson or Jalen Carter? And then they've got 12. So are they going to move up if, like, let's say Will Levis falls or Anthony Richardson falls to like 7, 8, 9? And do they try to go up and get that guy, or do they make a trade, or are they going to sit with Davis Mills and ride him out? I don't know. That's going to be the most fascinating area to me. And then, of course, we know what happens at 3 and some of the trades that I think will happen in the top 10.
Doc, you're kind of steady Eddie in your temperament. Why do you think we rolled the dice so much when it comes to overanalyzing quarterbacks?
Because everybody needs one. If you want to win a championship, you've got to have at least if you only have a decent quarterback, you better have an elite defense. So when you look at like the AFC and Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, even Justin Herbert and Josh Allen and those guys, you better have somebody who can sling it. So everybody's willing to take that risk. And that's why I look at Anthony Richardson as the riskiest draft quarterback we've ever seen. Even Mahomes, at least he had somewhat of a resume at Texas Tech. Anthony Richardson has really nothing at Florida. Very inconsistent, but he has the starter kit that everybody would love to have. I mean, incredible arm, athletic ability. He's tremendous as far as his interviews go. It's just, but so if you don't have that, if you just have a guy, it's going to be hard to get past maybe the divisional playoffs.
Well, Iowa will kind of put it into your wheelhouse now with quarterback play. They've had a bunch of just kind of guys at the quarterback spot. They're hoping they've got more than that now with Cade McNamara. I know he didn't play a ton of live reps or really real reps in the spring game, but how much of an upgrade can he be at that quarterback spot for Iowa this year?
I think he could be gigantic compared to where they were the last couple of years. I mean, even when you look at Nate Stanley, I don't think anybody would say, he was a draft pick, but he wasn't like, an all-decade player or anything like that. But he did have 68 touchdowns. Iowa combined for 28 touchdowns the last 3 years. Oof. That is a huge drop. And, and Spencer was off the charts when it came to leadership, but he was all over the place when it came to accuracy. And what Cade McNamara brings is, in 2021, he was 64% from the field. And that's, Iowa hasn't had a quarterback since Ricky Stanzi in 2010 that hit that number. So that's something that I think if he could just merely complete passes in the flat, which Spencer had some issues with, I think he's got a chance to elevate this offense. And it shouldn't be hard to elevate it. It was the worst I've ever seen. But if he could just get the ball out of his hands into somebody else's hands, move the chains once in a while, I think this offense will look much better. Will it be good? I don't know yet. I'm going to wait and reserve and watch and see how they perform in September. But I think they could at least be better because they certainly can't be worse.
So it's interesting. Like I talk, and I've seen this obviously spending a ton of time on your guys' campus over the last year with that staff. There's some engaging pieces to it. There's some business as usual parts to it. But when it comes to the relationships of your offensive coordinator, the quarterback play, and the fan base, what do you think about just the dynamic of getting along? Not so much, hey, I like you, you like me, but a positive relationship across the board being more of a factor than actual talent on the offensive side, and in particular in the quarterback spot, right? Because, hey, what's your message to the fans, right? What do you – well, I don't really have a message. And I've gotten a chance to know Brian, and he doesn't bother me a ton. He seems like a bright guy, and he's no frills, so I understand that. But that part seems to actually fit Iowa's temperament. Where is it disjointed?
I think the last 2 years in particular, things have gone downhill so much on the offensive side of things that he has become the target for the fan base. And I understand that. But last year was a bottom-out year in every area on offense. When you're looking at the beginning of the year, your guy, Keegan Johnson played, 13, 14 snaps.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, they only had one scholarship receiver available. They completely flatlined when it came to their 18 and 19 offensive linemen. I think they had 8 scholarship guys, and only one even saw action last year, and he wasn't that good. And then you look at the quarterback being inconsistent. That's really what caused the offense to stink, because in 2020, they were second in the Big Ten with almost 32 points a game. But I think their people here, especially last year, were so angry after the first month, and I understand it. Believe me, it was not fun to watch, but they were so angry that they just channeled all their aggression towards Brian. And then Brian Brian kind of come across as abrasive at times, maybe even arrogant. I get along with him great, but other people don't. But, and having his contract readjusted and everything, that really, it really set him up to fail in the public's eyes, in my opinion. Like last week when he came in to talk, I'm like, he's in an unwinnable situation because no matter what he says is going to get parsed. And
it seemed tense from the jump, didn't it?
Yeah. What's that?
It seemed tense from the jump.
Yeah, he came in with a real kind of direct message, almost like I'm not going to really have any banter. I'm not going to, because he does that, especially with me and a couple other guys that, we get along well and we talk about a lot of things. But I think he was just like I'm going to the dentist and I don't like this. And somebody asked, what's the message to the fans? And he's like, I don't have a message to the fans. And it's true. It's basically about what do you do on the field? And even if they're successful, it's kind of program wide. I mean, okay, you got a new quarterback, and they did actually hit the portal, which they haven't done really in much of the past, and they got a lot of upgrades. And so if they do improve dramatically, people aren't going to magically say, oh, okay, it's Brian and his brilliant mind. They're going to say, oh, well, it's because there's a new quarterback, a couple of new linemen, new wide receiver, that kind of thing.
Scott, I wonder, and I wonder if it's different locally there than it is kind of from the outside looking in, but how much of the, I guess blame is the word I'm looking for, goes to not just Brian, but Kirk? Because it seems like so much of the vitriol has been aimed at Brian when Kirk is kind of the reason they're in this situation. How is he getting a pass locally too, because everything's focused on Brian, or is that just from the outside looking in?
No, he's gotten drilled a little bit too, and I think it's a little bit different situation because Kirk does have equity here. I mean, he's going into year 25. He'll win his 200th game after whenever he wins the second game this year, and he's done a lot for the program, and so there is a lot of people who still rally around him, and let's face it, last year was their worst year, since 2014. They won 8 games, so it's not like that nobody was satisfied, believe me on that. But I think people, some of the people are real knee jerk about it, and other people are like, look, our defense was awesome, our offense stunk, and Iowa still won 8 games. So I think that's why he gets a little bit more of a pass. But you're right, it is somewhat. I would probably look at it as a program wide issue, especially at wide receiver.
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing, because, obviously I was just referencing earlier, just spending so much time around that staff. I think Parker's fantastic. LeVar Woods is tremendous. Hodge is great. Like, there are these key components, and I think how much of the level of frustration has to be if we could only get blank, then you fill in the blank. Does that give you peace of mind that you're close, knowing you have some other parts, or is it frustrating that it's just one or two things and that has yet to come to fruition?
I think it's probably really frustrating for the fan base at this point, because when you look at last year where they led the country in average yards per play allowed at 3.99, and yet really, you even go to the Nebraska game where if Cooper DeJean doesn't get hurt, and then they have to insert a true freshman who has to guard the fastest wide receiver in the Big Ten and gets drilled multiple times for touchdowns. I mean, you take, and they're still 3.99, and they didn't even have to play their own offense.
Yeah.
If they would have played their own offense the way Illinois did, they probably would have led the country in every category. And so, but they were really close in a lot of areas. It's just offensively, they couldn't even, they couldn't close the deal against Iowa State or Illinois or Nebraska in winnable games that they just, if they had any kind of punch whatsoever. Now, the defense last year had off the charts leadership. It was, with Jack Campbell and Riley Moss and Kayvon Merriweather, they were really all together. If they didn't have that kind of leadership, it might have went the other way. They might have went 5-7 or something like that. But so they do have to be careful of that. And I think that's why when you bring in a Kate McNamara, who was a team captain, a team first guy on the offensive side, I think that can instill some confidence and some support, because they have a huge leadership void going into this year. Not necessarily a talent void on defense. I think they're very, very good there. But losing Jack Campbell from every perspective is going to hurt.
Scott, I'll get you out of here on this, because you were one of the first guys, maybe the only guy that I heard say this out loud. Maybe it was just because it was to me in the press box, but you referenced it a little bit earlier about the offensive line and as poor as it had been in some time, but you felt like help was on the way potentially. When you look at the infusion of different quarterbacks, some depth in the offensive line, do you foresee the offense being better than Brian Ferentz would indicate according to the fan base's metrics?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I think they will be better. I think they will be probably in the neighborhood of 28 points a game. 25 is what he gets to be extended, which is kind of laughable. But I do think that they have a chance to get into that range because the offensive line was so bad last year, but it was also very inexperienced. So throwing guys out there who really weren't good enough to be out there at that point. But they are a little bit better now. I would expect that to improve. Wide receiver to me is the big question mark on offense. And that's going to, I would put Iowa as the favorite in the West right now, but I'd also say that without some they're going to go to the portal and grab a wide receiver. If they don't get quality wide receiver play, they'll probably just be a sacrificial lamb in Indianapolis. If they can get it, then they can start dragging people down to Iowa's level like they have before, which is hit a couple of big plays, play awesome on defense, and then all of a sudden you're playing rock and sock and robots, which Iowa likes to win.
Scott, never disappoint, man. From The Athletic. As good as it gets. Appreciate it, Doc.
All right, thanks, Damon. Have a good one.
You too. Scott Dochterman. I'm telling you, I'm taking these tours, and Parker's a genius.
Yeah.
He really is. Just listening to him, my kiddo loves him. They have a lot of things clicking on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
I always wonder, is it more frustrating or less frustrating when you can pinpoint what ails you on like a small scope? Because like if you're just like, man, if I could just get under 2,100 calories a day, right? Pretty finite, right? But you don't possess the ability to get under 2,100 calories a day.
Yeah.
Are you more or less frustrated that it seems to be a singular thing? Are you encouraged by that, or are you mad that you can't get to it?
It depends on how long I've been failing at the singular thing. Right?
Yeah.
That's the level of frustration. Because if I just found out that it's like, hey, 2,100 calories, and I'm in week 1 of trying to hit it, and I miss it 5 out of the first 6 days, it's like, hey, that's okay. Like, I know what I need to get to. We're there. If I'm in month 4 and I'm only hitting under 21 calories like 15% of the time, because here's a good example, right? You don't even know this, but you made a really good example for me specifically, right? If I've got like calorie or macro goals or whatever, they can really be thrown off if I have low blood sugar because I have to eat.
Right.
And so that can really mess with my daily totals because I have to eat until the blood sugar comes up, and then it throws off the rest of my day food-wise, right? So if I'm having weird low blood sugar problems and I can't hit that number because I have to go and eat extra stuff that I wasn't planning on eating, whatever. And then I have to go and eat more to make sure I hit my protein goals or whatever the case is there. That gets really, really frustrating if I've been doing that for 2, 3, 4 months and still am having the struggles of getting to the number that I need to. Now, extrapolate that over the last decade of Iowa football where they've had rough wide receiver play, where you haven't had...
I would say probably 4 or 5 years.
Well, so I was just going by what he said with like the quarterback. They haven't had a quarterback complete 64% of his passes since Ricky Stanzi 2010.
Yeah.
Right? That's 13 years ago. He was doing a piece on the offensive line, kind of projecting their depth chart. He says it's been a decade since the wide receiver play has been good. So call it 4 or 5 years, call it a decade, whatever you want. Like Iowa,
they've had some NFL talent, right?
Yes.
With McNutt and the speedster. This got drafted 2 years ago, and I'm forgetting his name. Played opposite Tracy in the slot.
Well, not to mention, I mean, they had Noah Fant there,
right? Hawkinson.
Like they've had
Laporta, who's
really good tight ends there.
Yeah,
that can help cover up some of your.
Going to be another good one.
They can help cover up some of your wide receiver stuff, and they still haven't been able to turn that into a functional offense very often.
So let me ask you this: if we're trying to negotiate the calories to get to the low blood sugar, do you give Coach Ferentz a pass when he says this works for us? Because what I hear him saying is, if we do X, Y, and Z just good enough, then we'll be okay over here.
So it depends on, again,
because that's what I hear him. And listen, I'm not trying. That's what I hear him trying to rationalize.
Well, so again, it depends on how long you've been doing that, right? Because if I am, again, let's say I'm in week 1 of trying to get to that calorie number and having too many low blood sugars to get to the calorie number, right? If I'm in month 3, I need to adjust my other meal plans to account for the fact that I'm probably going to have some low blood sugar snacks, right?
So even if you get a dynamic wide receiver, or even if you've portioned out your pre 12 o'clock caloric intake so you can splurge at 5, are you really gonna splurge at 5? Like, if he gets a great wide receiver, are you really gonna target him 9-10 times a game?
Well, that's the question, right? That's the $1 million question from Brian Ferentz and Kirk Ferentz and the whole Iowa thing, right? Because while we understand it's been one thing in terms of, hey, we just have to get a good enough offense, there's a couple different areas that have been problematic within the one thing, right? So if we're
sometimes it's wide receivers. This year, a lot of it was O-line.
Sometimes it's quarterback. It's usually not O-line, but last year it was a little bit, right? Sometimes you don't have a very dynamic running back there as well. So it's kind of the same thing. Let's go back to the calorie analogy. Sometimes it's like, I worked out and I didn't eat my meal before I worked out, so now I've got a low blood sugar and I'm catching up, right? Or maybe the workout was a little harder than I wanted to, so I did everything right beforehand, but I got to catch up on the back end. Like, there's different ways the same thing can happen, and I think that's where Iowa is right now. Is it looks like one problem, but it's been a bunch of little problems within that problem.
You know what's funny about you saying that? I go back to Coach Rule's press conference, not to bring it back to Nebraska, but to bring it back to Nebraska.
Always.
Where he talked about playing complementary football.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, situationally, it may be this and it looks like this. And when you're in 1-score games, and if you're listening closely, I took it as he's basically saying you do a couple of things different ahead of time, and you're not in this position later on.
You don't have to play catch up. You don't have to try and retcon things to fit, right? And I think Iowa
I think we maybe missed that when he was talking last week, because we put it down to this fourth quarter 1-score games, and he's basically saying if you do your work on the front end,
you don't have to worry.
You don't have to worry about that so much.
You don't have to worry about making a game-winning drive
on the back end
and having an inopportune fumble or kicking the last punt to the wrong side of the field.
I hope
whatever,
we heard
right?
that. I hope we heard that correctly, because I think that's really what they're trying to accomplish.
It's similar to what I tell people when, and listen, I'm a victim of it too, especially when it's a team I care about. You get mad about a late call in a basketball game with a ref, right? It's like, hey, there was 1,000 things that happened before that you had control over that you didn't, whether you chose not to do or you couldn't do, right? And so, yes, did that call impact the game in that moment? Yes, it did. But there was a bunch of things that could have impacted the game that you actually had control over that you didn't execute. And so I kind of feel like Coach Rule's saying the same thing in, hey, yes, there's some bad luck in 1-score games. Maybe you can be a little bit unlucky in certain situations. But if you do the things you need to beforehand, you avoid a lot of those situations that you can get unlucky in.
Coming up, we'll talk Badgers in our little mini Big Ten Whip. We'll talk with Ben Worgull. We got Joel Lorenzi, folks testing the NBA waters. Ian Flint. Flint is in. Does that change the tight end picture? I mean, Carter Nelson is out there.
Yeah.
Tight end room looks okay. How many
Keep
do we
stacking
need?
talent. Let's go.
Is that what it is? And
Yep.
let the paramedics sort them out. It's actually the program. Our program. It's called Coffee and Cream. Back after this. We'll take a break, pay some bills.
Wisconsin scored one. Number 1 unit for Wisconsin scored 1 touchdown in the first half. And there's C.J. Williams, and it's Ricardo Holman who picks off another pass through the hands of Will. Number one unit for Wisconsin scored one touchdown in the first half. And there's C.J. Williams, and it's Ricardo Hallman who picks off another pass through the hands of Williams, number 4, the wide receiver, and Hallman has got his 3rd interception of the spring game. Number one unit for Wisconsin. Scored one.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Just telling jokes off air, making fun of Shane, hoping he doesn't all of a sudden get mad and kill the show.
Let's hope not. That'd be awkward.
It would, right? Yeah, what happened to the host? I don't know. They were running their mouths and saying Shane had enough. Borrowed LeBron's Freddy Krueger sweater and went to work. Shane, this
after hearing that, I don't know if I could ever be mad.
You're mad.
Hey, those were the days, man, of the Vine. As we just finished with Scott Dochterman and kind of the message with Nebraska, and we talked recruiting and the portal. It giveth, it taketh away. I don't know who's going to have any production for Colorado. You know who's also not had a great offseason in the portal is Minnesota. I mean, both Nebraska's first two opponents will have a lot of different
pieces.
Yeah. And some key. Like, I'm looking at Minnesota's receiving core. I'm curious to see what's going to happen there. I think they'll be able to run the ball, but I know Rossi, they're going to be good defensively, I think, because they typically are. Yeah. And they have really good defensive minds. But man, it's so flippin' fluid.
It feels kind of like a proof of concept year for PJ Fleck.
Right, because of all the moving pieces.
Yeah, because he's had so much stability in his first handful of years, and it felt really, I don't know if easy is the right word, but it felt very kind of logical on how it would progress and how he could build upon it.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's dealing with, it seems like for the first time since probably year one, a lot of uncertainty and unsteady footing that if he can retool and keep Minnesota at kind of the level they've been at, which is very solid, especially considering what the expectations of the program are, then I think you have to kind of just accept, which I sort of already have, that, yeah, PJ Fleck knows what he's doing. Even if he rubs,
I think that's clear.
Yes, but even if he rubs you the wrong way, you can kind of say, yeah, this guy's really good at what he does, right? And that, you mentioned another guy or another program that Nebraska is going to face early in Colorado that, again, can rub you the wrong way in Deion. But we don't know yet what kind of coach he is.
So the funny thing about that is, you use those two guys in the same sentence. One guy has built a pretty consistent culture.
Mm-hmm.
He's won at two different schools. He's done it in a similar fashion, like building that culture first. This one for Deion is vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you look at the record is really good. The turnaround at his former school.
At Jackson, yeah.
The winning of the meaningful games in crunch time, though, not so much. Right.
And it's really easy to look at, because I really don't know what to make of Deion, the football coach, because he was able to just accumulate such a level of talent compared to his competitors at Jackson State that, yeah, he was going to win a lot of games. Like, that was, if he didn't, then he was a really bad football coach.
Yeah. And even if he was using his own money or however the story goes about what they owed him or didn't,
whatever
they were fiscally ahead of their competitors.
Yes.
It will not be the case at Colorado.
They were fiscally and just however, whether they used the fiscal to get the talent, whatever, there was a huge talent gap between them and everybody else that they were playing, right? Because they were getting honest to God FBS players, Power 5 players at an FCS school. That doesn't happen very often, especially coming out of high school and not just transfers, but they got a ton of transfers there too. What I think there's in common between Fleck and Deion is we don't love the way they come off all the time in the way they act, the way they sound. Like it looks different, but as I'm watching the Colorado spring game on Saturday, I'm just like, so much of what Deion does makes me cringe. The I ain't hard to find shirt and the cowboy hat and the whatever. And it's always just a lot, which is how I feel about PJ Fleck. PJ, like the row the boat thing, and he's running up and down the sidelines. It always just feels like a lot.
At least it's intertwined with Minnesota, though.
Right. Which is
Prime seems to be different.
Prime
than
seems to
Colorado.
be about Prime.
Yeah.
Right. But the overlap for me is I wouldn't think the PJ Fleck thing would work because for me, it hits me wrong, right? Obviously, though, there's enough substance there and there's enough things that are happening with him as a person that the players buy into his culture.
Absolutely.
What I don't know is how much of the Dion thing, how much of the Prime thing the players buy into. I think there's a certain type of player, obviously, that's drawn to it because he's recruited really well. But
has he?
Well, he's recruited out of the portal pretty well. High school recruiting, I don't know, right? I don't think that's a thing we've really seen.
I just don't think there's going to be enough. Like, who's coming that are game changers that are willing to roll the dice to fill that roster?
I mean,
Travis
Hunter's about the only one.
Let's just be practical, though. But
Right.
he needs 35 more guys.
At least.
I was just going to say minimum.
At least, yeah. And I mean, so they've lost
How many scholarships do they have available? 50?
Yeah, they've lost 31 guys in the portal in 10 days. In the last 10 days. They've lost 31 guys in the portal. 18 yesterday. They had lost 13 before that since the 15th.
And look at the productivity. Now, granted, it wasn't a great team, but when you only won one game. But
so this is why I wonder about the culture, right? Because
how are you going to get 50 scholarship spots
in like a month, basically, or to get guys in for summer conditioning? You have to have those 50 guys in a month, right? Max.
Yeah.
So there's a huge number crunch problem. I mean, they might roll out there with 60 scholarship guys because that would still be filling like 25 of their spots.
Yeah.
And so that's where I struggle with Dion right now, because a lot of what I see is not for me. A lot of the
even though I do think the staff looks pretty legit.
I think he did a really good job of putting the staff together, which is actually one of the things that makes me pause.
Yeah, I'm a big Coach Boyle guy. He's recruiting his ass off in Nebraska.
Instead of just being out on it, right? Instead of just being like, no, this is never going to work, because there's enough substance there that we've actually seen.
Probably more than we would give it credit.
And things like the coaching staff, I think, are a big tell, right? Because he hired dudes that he's going to have to listen to. Otherwise, they're not sticking around.
Correct.
He hired former head coaches. He hired sitting head coaches in his offensive coordinator. He went out and got guys that are not just going to be yes men to Deion Sanders, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the major things that I'm like, oh, is there more there?
Talking about like the Chad Kellys of the world. You
Yeah.
get a coordinator from Kent that was a head coach. I mean, he's the staff on paper looks
really
legit.
good, and it's older guy, a lot of older guys.
Yeah.
It's guys that have experience. That
I think he's hired 3 former head coaches.
Yeah, that you look at it and say maybe he understands his shortcomings. Maybe,
and that's part of it, right? Like,
which if he does, I would give him a ton of credit for that.
yeah, like I would surround myself with somebody that is regimented in terms of writing things down.
Sure.
Like I know where I'm weak.
Yeah.
Right.
And that is half the battle in being successful, is knowing where you need help. Right.
So I could see. So I could see that.
And if Dion is capable, if that's what he put together that staff for, then I will give him a ton of credit for that. Which is, again,
I just don't know where the bodies are going to come from, though.
I don't know where the bodies are going to come from, and I don't know if you're like, obviously there's something about him that some people are drawn to, but does that translate to day in, day out putting in the work to be a good football team when you're not just more talented than everyone? I don't know. That's where there's this huge question mark over Dion for me, because a lot of the people that are the type of hype men that he is, that talk and act the way he do, don't have a lot to back it up. That's, I think, the thing that bothers us about Dion is most people that act that way are empty shirts. I don't know if he is or not. I'm not going to assume he is, but I think that's when we hear him, that's why it hits us wrong. I kind of assumed that about PJ Fleck too, and I was wrong. There's obviously something there.
Yeah, so I turned the corner on PJ Fleck. This is multiple Big Ten media days ago when I listened to Carter Kaufman and Tyler Johnson describe the process of buying in at Minnesota and how it was hard at first, and they wondered if this guy was for real. But over time, like they just were all in.
Yeah.
And I said this then, and I'll say it now. Those are the kinds of people that can be scary if they get enough.
Yes. If they get enough dudes, like actual dudes that can buy in, then it gets really scary.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dion can do that or not. That's the big experiment, right?
We shall see. We'll talk. We didn't get the Kim. We don't have time to get to Kim Shane.
That would be a negative.
All right. We'll get back to Kim. We got to talk Badger Nation. Ben Worgull coming up next. Wisconsin just had their spring game. Coffee and Cream will bring it to you on a mini MINI Big Ten whip. Back after this.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Number 1 unit for Wisconsin scored 1 touchdown in the first half. And there's C.J. Williams, and it's Ricardo Hall who picks off another pass through the hands of Williams, number 4, the wide receiver, and Hallman has got his 3rd interception of the spring game.
Little highlights in our mini Big Ten whip, MINI. Normally during the season, We'll do 3 or 4 schools. We'll get 2 today. Iowa was up first, and then we just saw their spring game as Nebraska was sandwiched in between Wisconsin right after. Just got out of Madison a couple weeks ago, so this will be interesting to catch up on with Ben Worgull, who covers Wisconsin football, basketball, and recruiting. He's done it a while. He's pretty good at what he does. Ben, good morning. Welcome into Coffee and Cream. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, guys.
So I was making the case Monday, just having seen practice a couple of weeks earlier in Madison, that, you know, tackling and physicality aside, I felt like that was almost exactly what we had seen in practice. Crisp, tempo, guys knowing what they were doing. That spring game, to me, seemed to embody the way that practice has been going. Was that kind of the sense that you got?
Yeah, Luke wants to be efficient with his time. He doesn't want to have practices drawn on for hours on end. I think their first practice this spring was about 2 hours, 10, 15 minutes. They want to go in. They want to get their work done. They want to move at a quickened pace. Like I said, the efficiency has kind of been the name of the game, and it's been a big spring for them. It's a whole new staff on both sides of the ball. There's a lot of new players. I think 13 transfers they brought in, something like that. A lot of new bodies at the quarterback, at the wide receiver position. They want to, or they worked on installing the offense the first 5 days, reinstall it the next 5 days, and then polish things up the last 5 days. And to do it at a quickened pace, I think excited the players. It brought some energy into the practices. They weren't always the best practices in terms of the performance, but they were efficient. And I think that's what the ultimate goal was for this team. They still got to practice today and Thursday, and then they move into phase number 3 of the off-season program of summer conditioning.
Ben, you mentioned some of the newcomers and obviously the new staff. One of the biggest newcomers was Tanner Mordecai at that QB spot, brought in to kind of run an offense he was familiar with, but not a lot of people in Wisconsin are familiar with Phil Longo up there. Obviously, his Saturday did not go great. What, if any, level of concern is there as they transition from what we've known as the staple Wisconsin offense to more of a wide open air raid deal with Phil Longo and Tanner Mordecai?
Yeah, and also his Thursday practice didn't go very well either. He had 3 picks in Thursday's practice as well. So 6 picks in 2 practices kind of makes people eye roll, kind of a here we go again with this offense. But up until this past week, he was performing very well.
Yeah.
You could tell that he had been through the battles. You could tell that he had overcome adversity. You could tell that he's played a lot of football. And then you just point to the fact that he's thrown 74 touchdowns in the last 2 years, and people get a little calming, sedative in their morning coffee when they read that. I mean, it's important for Wisconsin to have a veteran presence at the quarterback position. I think that was one of the big problems that Paul Chryst didn't address in previous years, was there never was a veteran brought into camp to really push Mertz. Mertz was kind of sold into the job, given the job, and I think sometimes the results showed that. Mordecai is a very good player. He's already developed a great leadership voice to him. The locker room respects him, which is phenomenal to see from a player that just arrived, a couple months ago. And there's depth at the position now. Braden Locke, who they brought in from Mississippi State, had a really nice camp. He's probably going to be the number 2 quarterback. And both Mordecai and Locke have elements of the air raid that they're familiar with. Locke with Mike Leach, and then SMU did a lot of different things like that. And that's kind of what Phil Longo ultimately wants Wisconsin to be. I don't know if they're going to be full air raid this year. They're going to kind of mesh some things of what they have available to them personnel-wise and schematically-wise now with some elements of the air raid. They worked a lot on RPOs and different looks off of that throughout spring. So you can definitely tell there's some elements there, and the reason why those elements are there is because Mordecai and Locke have experience and are comfortable running that type of offense.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because Longo has experience with having a couple of good backs on a roster before, like he had at Chapel Hill, and both those guys got drafted. I would try to make the case, but wouldn't die on the hill that Malusi may be a better natural runner than Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen garners all the headlines. However you cut it up, though, you got two fantastic guys that can tote the rock.
Yeah, and the concern with them is they're both kind of racking up an injury history a little bit, right? I mean, Braylon Allen hasn't made it through a season healthy yet, but when he's been on the field, he's produced at an extremely high level for Wisconsin. Ches Malusi had an ACL injury 2 years ago that cost him the second half of the season. A guy to kind of keep an eye on is K.D. Akamelli, a young kid who's kind of brought in as an athlete. He has worked a lot as the number 3 tailback in camp and has performed very well. Wisconsin had a lot of tailbacks not too long ago, but have had to dismiss a lot of them, or see a lot of them left via transfer. So that's a position that's always going to be a strength of Wisconsin. It's a position that Phil Longo is very well aware of, the strength of Wisconsin. So he's going to certainly utilize that at a high degree. The problem is that Wisconsin became too reliant on that years ago. Without a threat of a pass attack, Braylon Allen and Malusi and everyone else had to run against 7-8 man boxes all the time. And now you're going to really have a wide receiving group that has depth, that has talent. They're going to see a lot of them on the field. The goal is to spread out defenses to make it easier in the passing game and certainly easier on those two very talented running backs, like you mentioned, to get some yards after the handoff.
Ben, I want to switch over to the other side of the ball here on the defensive side. Obviously, that's where Coach Fickell kind of has his background. How would you evaluate the defense in terms of how they came along this spring? I know it can be a little tricky in spring games to say, well, how much of that was the offense being bad versus the defense being good? I guess, how do you weigh those things on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, you'd rather have those picks be thrown against the Wisconsin defense than against Ohio State's defense.
Sure.
I think you've seen a big boost in confidence from some of the young players in the secondary. Wisconsin's really had to remake their secondary consecutive years. Last year they did it through the portal. This year they're doing it through the youth on the roster. And Ricardo Hallman, who had 3 of those picks on Saturday, had 3 picks on Thursday, so 6 picks in 2 practices, has performed exceptionally well. He kind of lost his starting job after a loss last year against Michigan State. He has bounced back. He's probably had the best overall spring. Of the 13 corners on the roster, I think 6 or 7 are sophomores or younger, so it's a very young group and it's an inexperienced group. But you've seen a lot of those guys kind of stack good practices on top of one another. Probably the player to watch on the defensive side of the ball is Hunter Wohler, a safety.
Stud.
He missed a bunch of time last year with an injury, but when he played, he plays at a high level. He plays physical. He's one of those hybrid type safeties where you can move him around at a lot of different spots and see him make an impact. Tressel ran a lot of 2-4-5 at Cincinnati, and I think that's ultimately what they want to kind of transition to, away from Jim Leonard's 3-4. But, Leonard did run a lot of 2-4-5 last year because of injuries and different personnel that they had. So I don't think it's going to be a massive changeover as big as the offense is going to go through. But the good news is they just have a lot of young guys, a lot of young players on the defensive line. They're going to have to step up with Keanu Benton going to the NFL. Nick Herbig is gone from the linebacking group, and so you've had different players play inside and outside linebacker, trying to mix and match. And that's the best part about spring, right? You have 15 practices to kind of figure out who your personnel are, what the limitations, what the ceiling is of some of these players, and certainly this defense. I don't think it's going to be as great as some of Jim Leonard's teams, but I think this group has the potential to be good to very good this season for Wisconsin.
Yeah, pretty impressed with the minds. Obviously, Tressel comes, coached in multiple college football games with different teams. I'm not sure a lot of coaches can say that and add that to their resume. But Coach Hischler, your safeties coach, is really a budding superstar. I feel like, and I think he's got a co-DC title in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Could easily be a coordinator. Pretty impressive with kind of the defensive minds. And then because it frees Coach Fickell up to be everywhere. I watched, he was working the special teams. He was on offense. He was with the O-line. I think part of it has to be is because he has such studs on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, this is really a really nice staff that he put together. Guys with a lot of experience, guys with different experience at different levels, from NFL level to different colleges. You mentioned Tressel. Phil Longo's been at Sam Houston State and Mississippi and North Carolina. So, I mean, a lot of these guys have a lot of different stops on the resume. I think that was one of the problems with Paul's staff too. It was kind of a hodgepodge to a degree. Paul tried to give up play calling for a while, and it didn't work really well. Then he took it back, and it didn't really change much. You had a tight end coach coaching the offensive line. You had a really phenomenal offensive line coach coaching linebackers. You had a running back coach who was a head coach at a JUCO level who had never coached running backs before, who was a college offensive lineman. And, a lot of those guys had Wisconsin ties. And so you had the ability to kind of understand what the program was and understand what the program's strengths are. But it just felt like you had a lot of guys that were coaching out of the position, especially on offense. This doesn't feel that way. This feels like a very cohesive unit. It feels like a unit that has a mold of experience and a lot of up-and-coming players, up-and-coming coaches too. You had a coach who was a successful Division II head coach who won a ton of games that has come back and is coaching a position. And so the staff that Luke was able to put together, I don't know if you call it an all-star staff. I think that's, maybe a little too generous. But it just feels like a very well-rounded, solid staff that's going to be able to really mold and execute Fickell's game plan. And I think that's why there's been so much excitement here throughout spring about the direction of this program now.
Ben, fantastic stuff, man. Never disappoint, man. Appreciate your time.
All right, we'll talk to you down the road.
That's Ben Worgull, who covers football, basketball, and recruiting.
There you go.
And I'm telling you, that's a good staff. I couldn't agree more. Coming up, Joel Lorenzi. We'll talk NBA testing waters and what's going on around the college basketball landscape. Up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes.
Rebound by Martin. He gets it to Jimmy. Every it's White's hot play.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Rebound by Martin. He gets it to Jimmy. Everybody clears out. Butler drives up with speed. Pulls it back. Fires another three. Makes another three. Jim. Buckets. White hot flame.
Shane just gassing the fire.
It's fine. Get a nice night.
Bring in heat.
Get a nice night.
After Ravi and I argued over whether
hot flame
Butler should be the one scoring option. I even gave you a chance to couch it. You still wouldn't buy in.
No, I'm not couching.
Again, it's only because you know their roster.
No, I don't know.
Yes.
No.
Okay, so let me just humor me.
Okay.
Humor me.
Okay.
If Clay was on the Miami Heat with Bam Adebayo as a 3, which he should be as a viable option, are you cool with Butler being the number 1 option? Absolutely, you are. Stop.
I don't know.
I'm dropping the mic.
I don't know.
You're such a hater.
I'm not a hater.
It's because you know their roster.
No. Because I've always felt this way about Jimmy Butler.
I get it.
On the different stops.
Because his game is ugly. I get it.
It's not just because his game is ugly. It's just he has not consistently shown the ability.
He waits for the playoffs, Ravi.
Not just the playoffs. It's not like he drops 56 every playoff game.
No, but he is Jimmy Buckets in crunch time.
Listen, he has had some high-profile playoff moments, but if Jimmy is your one, you aren't winning anything.
My favorite is when you tell me to listen.
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 I think in a lot of cases, yes.
Yeah. Oh, Joel doesn't know. That's old. Why you bring up old clips from my guy?
Why are you doing?
As we welcome in he's rapidly become one of the favorites. I think we bring out the best in him.
Oh yeah.
As we welcome in Joel Lorenzi. Joel, what's up, buddy? How are you?
What's going on? I want to get in on this conversation, man. I say this. I think Jimmy Butler can probably win you a championship as a 1, but he's gonna get you to the promised land as a 1. I think there's a certain group of guys, like when we talk about like top 15, top 20 players, I think he's in that. It's hard to move him out that 9 to 13 spot because he's one of those guys that can get you here. I mean, we saw he exhausted himself in the bubble to get you here. They were 3 away from the finals last year. I mean, this dude, the game might be ugly at times because he's not the best shooter, but the rim pressure is insane, man. Like if he want to get there, he gonna get there. He gets to the spots, and it's just crazy to see how it happens, especially in the postseason. Like you can always count on this dude in the postseason. It's actually pretty nutty.
All I'm saying is the first thing you said was, if he's your 1, you're not winning a championship. That was my only point.
No, but that was my only point. But that's not true, though. It depends on who the 2 is. It does.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, his 2 Bam Adebayo for some time.
Yeah, Bam's underqualified. Bam's underqualified.
And so was Tyler Hero. He shouldn't even be starting in the NBA.
Well, maybe.
He's a 6th man.
Sure, agreed. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, you would have to have a 2 that is basically another 1 in order for Jimmy to be that guy.
But everybody's 2 goes for almost 20 a night on legit teams.
I get almost for 20 a night, but you'd have to have a guy that is basically as good as Jimmy Butler for Jimmy Butler to be your 1 and win a title.
Listen, if Harden could learn to share the ball consistently, Harden could be a 2 for the Heat.
Well,
you'd be fine having Butler be the bucket getter.
I mean,
Adebayo the 3.
I would hate that team so much because I'd have to watch
him too.
Harden and Butler.
ISO ball sucks. We're still friends though, Joel. So it's all good, even though Ravi has some terrible NBA.
Oh, come on now.
He hates any basketball previous to 2004 unless it involves Jordan.
That's not true. I love Larry Bird. Larry Bird is my guy.
Joel, he took Larry Bird out of the GOAT discussion and put him in a whole second tier.
Yeah, it's because there's only 3 guys in the GOAT discussion.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
It's not true. No, none of those guys won 3 MVPs in a row.
That's fine.
But Joel,
Hey, I'm not a fan. I'm an old dude. I'm part of the old dude erasure, man.
dude, Joel, I've told everybody this, like out on the streets, because they get a kick out of your segments. You should have been born in the 70s. I'm serious. You probably drink Maker's Mark and Scotch, like if you drink it all, but because you have an old soul, like you're 40 years older than your age.
You know what? I'll probably go sound that, but what tells you that? I want to know if I can say that.
I can just tell, like the only thing that God blessed me with is good discernment, and I can just tell by talking to you, like you're wise beyond your years.
Well, I appreciate that.
Oh, something you be careful now, because sometimes it can be a disservice. People may call you a know-it-all, and you're not old enough, and then you got to defend it. So it can be a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I can see that. But you know what? That's the one curse I'll take, man. I'll take that.
So Ravi and I we talk a ton off air and not during the show because we do happen to be friends. He's probably quietly cheering that Kaluma has entered testing the NBA.
Cheering might be aggressive.
the NBA waters, but he's gravely concerned over Trey Alexander. Is that the natural thought process, you think?
No, I think most fans, I think they are probably not losing a lot of sleep over Art hitting not hitting the portal, hitting the draft. But I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks, man. I think this was the expectation, and so I think that makes it easier on folks. But also, I think they were frustrated with his game a lot. But I'll say this: we're talking about like the sense I get is that like they've known this for a while, and so they never. At a certain point, they decided, okay, we're not going to recruit over Mason Miller. Like, we're not going to replace him.
They got Trout and Jay Green.
Yeah, so what it seems to me, the rotation is probably going to be, Miller, Trout, and Jason Green at that position as we, currently stand. And, if that's the case, they're going to miss Kaluma, man. Like, say what you want. Like, Mason Miller got the tools. Ozzie Trout has some interesting tools. He kind of like a center in some scenarios, so they have to make something work there. But say what you want, they don't got a guy, a power forward on that roster that's going to defend the way Kaluma could at his best. I know nobody liked his ISOs, but his handle is better than all those dudes. There are going to be a lot of things, like the way people were like, oh yeah, I miss Ryan Hawkins or I miss Alex O'Connell. People are going to miss Arthur Kaluma, man. And they're going to have to face that music at some point, even if the fit wasn't always perfect. Now, on the Trey Alexander front, I think it's natural to be worried about that dude because they're kind of betting on, hey, is there, out of 30 executives, is there going to be one that says, okay, we'll take you here, and that here being high enough to where the agent is like, I cannot tell him to go back to school. Because there is a range where the agent would be like, they're an agent. They're not going to be like, okay, you should go back to Creighton, even though I think it's very unlikely. And
yeah, but they want to get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think most executives and scouts alike are like, like they see him as a 2024 guy anyway. So I think it'll take like a guy like Summer for him to get into that range where the edge, okay, you cannot stay in school. Like, we got to get you in the draft. But don't get me wrong. Trey Alexander is a talented dude. I think regardless, I think the reason people are so like sweating so hard about Trey is I mean, now they're clearly building around him. Like, he's the guy they're not just giving the keys to, they're building around him. They're not building around Kalkbrenner. They're building around the idea of Trey at this point.
So, Joel, let me ask you this. So, going back to Kluma for just a second, could I make the argument to you that while he is more talented than the guys replacing him in terms of pure basketball talent, that the Trout-Miller combo is a better fit for what Creighton has been trying to do?
I mean, sure, yeah, I get that argument, but you're also betting on the idea of what Mason and Trout could be.
Sure.
What they are now and what we've seen. I mean, I say this: we haven't even seen Isaac Trout play a college basketball game. He's probably a good college basketball player. Talented dude in high school, good size. They say he has handle. I don't know how it'll translate to the college game.
High level recruit, though.
The idea of Trout is cool, and I like that he could play five in certain lineups. But then you talk about maybe pushing King minutes away. I don't know. And then defensively, next to Kalkbrenner, depends on the guys you're trying to ask him to guard. It's a little weird. Now, Mason Miller, I think the idea of Mason Miller is that, obviously this guy got a torch. We saw it toward the end of we saw it all year, but he really got confident with his jumper toward the end of last year. But like the dribble jobs, man, like, I think I can count on my hand how many dribble jobs Mason Miller had all last year. And I'm not saying they're going to be asking him to do that, but it would help to have that as a tool, especially when you got a 50-inch vertical, man, whatever he got. Like this guy got the tools, but
he's got
if
crazy
you can't
bounce.
see them in real time, if you can't use them there, then what are they worth? So I think he has to have a crazy summer for me to be really confident in him being the starter. And then Trout, I just got to see Trout play basketball, man.
So let me ask you something with the news that Keisei Tobinaga is going to test the NBA waters. And I was talking to Ravi off air, and you're like, you got to get a report. You want to know what NBA execs say. Trey Alexander's going to get information. And maybe this is a Kaluma thing or not, but sometimes having those voices in your ear about what you should do in order to enhance is not always a positive, right?
For the team, at least.
Yeah, for the team, right? Sometimes you go out of your way to answer other critics as opposed to winning games. Do you worry about that at all?
Yeah, repeat the question.
Do you worry about folks that like test the waters to get feedback that take that feedback literally, and sometimes it's at their current college team's expense?
No.
You don't think Kaluma wanted to show NBA scouts some things that weren't in the context of what Creighton wanted him to do?
Yeah, for sure. But I think, Kaluma and Tomaga are different. Kaluma was.
Well, what about Trey?
No. Well, I think it comes out in different people. Trey, I think when Trey would do some of that stuff, it never really stuck out. It was never outside of the offense. It was always within the rhythm of the game. Now, Kaluma, I think he felt some of that stuff. Like, you dating back to like Maui when the ISOs were prevalent, and he was really like kind of getting exposed. I think that was like, okay, it looks like he's trying to do some stuff to maybe bolster that draft profile and show that he can handle and whatnot. But I think also some of that stuff, he hadn't turned into the player he became in January, February yet. Like, he really, by then, he still thought that was his game and something he could offer as a wrinkle to Creighton, I think. So I don't think, while he definitely had an idea in his head to maybe, like, hey, like, let me try to do this, and Trey didn't really have as many ideas like that. I don't think. I'm not sure it was detrimental. Like, they still were able to turn him into a different player, because you got to think, like, the ISOs and the handle and showing off all that, like, that goes beyond the draft profile and what scouts wanted to see. That's something he genuinely felt he could do at this level because he did it all summer at AfroBasket. It's not just something he like aspired to do. Like, it was something he was doing against grown men. So he felt, okay, why not do that at the college game? And that's why I feel like when he makes the pro jump, it should be a little easier maybe to grind, either whether that's through the G League or Summer League, whatever. It'll be easier to do some of that stuff for him there because just the spacing and the type of rules you have to operate with under different schemes and whatnot, and so yeah, I'm not sure it's detrimental. It really depends on who. I think Kaluma's closer to one of those cases you could say that, but I think he genuinely believes he could do that stuff. It's not like he was doing it just like, oh, like Stout, look here.
Hey, let me make this up.
Joel, let me I don't want to speak for you here, so let me try and parse what you're saying a little bit in terms of your expectations. It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would expect Arthur Kaluma to stay in the draft and be gone next year, but it sounds like maybe you're leaning toward Trey coming back. Is that accurate?
I personally think so. I think Kaluma, we've been talking about Kaluma going to the draft for a long time now. And I think there is, if I'm getting into my Doctor Strange, Kate, there is.
God, I like that.
See the outcomes.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. Look, there's 5 out of 100 realities where Kaluma could probably come back, but it would take a lot. There's a gap that has to be bridged, and I don't see it being bridged, man. I really don't. Like there would have to be a lot of, I don't know. I mean, you saw at the end of the year, I think the idea that Mac had of Kaluma and the idea that Kaluma had of himself were just different, man. They just were. And they kind of showed on court. So it would take a lot of, bridging that gap for him to come back. But it's not impossible. But I will lean that he stays in the draft at this point. And then Trey, I think Trey, just because they're going so hard for Trey, and I think it's kind of hard. Like Trey, I don't see him as a guy that turns down. I mean, if they use his last scholarship on a good reserve, it's hard for me to envision him, turning that down. I definitely don't think he'll stay in the draft because I think he knows another year will put him maybe in a first round territory. And so yeah, that's kind of my indication so far. If I had to guess,
he shoots to the top of the NIL board, and Creighton's NIL is fantastic. He gets 15 shots a game. He guards the best defender.
Mm-hmm.
He's your technical guy. I mean,
can play point when he has
to. Not to quote my man Future, but he's got his red bottoms on. Life is good. You know what I mean? Like, it would be pretty good to be Trey Alexander in Omaha.
I agree. I mean, but hey, sometimes it ain't all what it seems. But I think for him, I think he's relatively low maintenance. I think, and,
yeah.
So I think he'll be fine. I think he'll seize the opportunity if I had to guess.
Let me ask you something real quick before Ravi bogs all your time down with Creighton, because I'm going NBA here. Going forward, Joel, are you taking Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, De'Aaron Fox, or Scotty Barnes?
Bro, I'll keep it a bean. Scotty Barnes shouldn't even be in this conversation. Not right now. He shouldn't be. But I think you said Shai Gilgeous, De'Aaron Fox. It would be easy to say De'Aaron right now because he's actually leading a promising playoff team. I'm so pissed off.
And he's second in the NBA in clutch points too.
Yeah.
But I will say I really want to see Shai around a properly talented and well-built team, man. Like, I think as a first option, I think he has a higher ceiling than De'Aaron, if I'm being real.
How disappointed?
I'll probably go Shai. And that's no shade to De'Aaron. De'Aaron was patient. He sat through the mud. He sat through the BS teams. The Kings tried it out for a while, and now he's where he should be. But I think Shai got some little more time to go. and it's not on him. I mean, he had an incredible year. He had like a All NBA year, and I think with a properly built team, those dudes can make noise too, man. So I'm gonna go Shea. I like Shea a lot.
How disappointed are you that Donovan Mitchell's game hasn't expanded?
Oh, super. This is not how I want to remember Donovan. People don't know if they started watching basketball this year, they don't know the 50 balls he was dropping in the bubble. That's the Donovan I remember. Come on, man. Got Mitchell Robinson playing like the best big in that series. Like, it's just ugly over there, man. Real nasty.
Real hoop heads know that Donovan Mitchell versus Jamal Murray in the bubble is like an all-timer.
Oh, Jamal Murray was on a. You talk about Doctor Strange. That was a whole nother dimension that Murray was in, and he got paid.
Yeah, I don't like what I'm seeing, man. I really don't. I want to forget. But really, this first round has been upsetting. I mean, Kawhi should have handed. Kawhi should have handed it to the Suns, man. But he keeps sitting and
he's getting killed again. He's reinventing ways for the media to crash him.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? They shouldn't be, because when he was playing, he was the best player in that series. He looked like the best player in that series. So I don't know why people would kill. I mean, yeah, the injury stuff is frustrating, but people find ways. Like, bro, people remember Kawhi is like easily a top 6 player at the very least when he plays, man. He looked the part. And if he played, we wouldn't even be talking about the Suns. We'd be talking about, damn, we would be looking at the Suns' flaws more than anything. Should have been looking into the series, because they're going to get their asses handed by somebody. Trust me. Because it couldn't be the Clippers without Kawhi or Paul George. If those dudes were playing, we wouldn't even be talking about it. And the same thing goes for the Heat, man. Like, I really enjoyed what Jimmy did yesterday. But come on, man, we can't be serious, man. Like, if Giannis would have played them first 3 games, more or less, because he only played, what, a half of the first game?
Played 11 minutes in the first game, yeah.
We wouldn't talk about the Heat, man. Stop it, man. And it's pissing me off, because now we're not even about to see the best player in the world through the rest of the postseason, man. It's ridiculous.
Joel, before we let you go here, you got about 2 minutes. In the West, we were talking about the Suns, how they've got their flaws, and I agree with you there. Obviously, the Warriors and Kings are in a tight series. Never really looks like the Lakers are going to advance, but never really know what to make of them on any given day. They've got their flaws as well. They got flaws, and you know it. Who do you like in the West? Do you like anybody in the West?
I think the Nuggets is probably the only team that's super convincing right now.
Yeah.
The Lakers are up there too. I like them in a lot of stuff. I think the Warriors are still good. I think whoever comes out that Warriors series should make some noise. So those are probably the teams I'm looking at now. I would have liked the Clippers if they could get dudes on the court, man.
Yeah.
The Suns got their problems. I think they're going to get exposed by one of those teams I named. So those are my guys. But I was in favor of the East teams. I thought my championship pick was the Bucks, and then Giannis sat 3 games for I mean, that was never on my bingo card. So now Jimmy Butler's out there dropping damn near 60, and they're about to be out of there. So whatever.
Oh, fantastic stuff, Joel. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, congrats on the gig, Ravi.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joel.
Yes, sir.
One of the funnier guys we talked to. You're such a hater.
You can't tell me that you're like super convinced this Laker team is.
No, I'm not, actually.
Yeah, so I'm not a hater.
I just like messing with you because your opinions are so. Because your opinions are so strong. Well, there's like no moving you off the deal.
Listen, if you've got good arguments for it, I can move. But I know you agree with me on the Lakers.
I do, actually,
because they're a flawed team.
I do. I'm still mad at you about Jimmy Butler, though.
Listen, he had a nice night.
Coming up, we're going to clean up some sports. We previewed Omaha, Nebraska. We talked hockey early. We may get back to it, and we for sure got the 6-pack brought to you by Zipline. Apparently, the questions are a little tough.
Ooh, I like it.
Hot takes.
Let's do it.
We got a lot of them. That's my main man, Ravi. Lulla. Shane over there handling his little birdhouse over there. We'll be back after this on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning. Hey, off topic. Just because I want to make sure that you've got.
I mean, what are we on topic?
Well, we're always on topic. That's what makes us so entertaining. We're just versatile. If you're looking for some Husker gear, and I know you are, you need Alumni Hall.
Always looking for good Husker gear.
I like the Husker hat you had on yesterday. Now, you had it kind of turned backwards, but the front.
Yeah.
I like too, and I like the little Huskers.
I do. I like on the back where it says, I like when there's like a logo on the back.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think I could wear a hat backwards.
I don't know if I can, but I do.
No, it looked good. Like you made it work. I mean, whatever. Your look is your look, but I guess I can say because I'm secure, right?
No, I appreciate that.
It looked good.
You know, you can pull it off.
Alumni Hall, that's your place. You got to visit alumnihall.com. They got two great Lincoln locations, Peace Street and South Point Pavilion. You qualify for Hall Pass rewards too. We're still trying to explain that phenomenon to Shane, but it's primarily because he's very frugal with his money. No other reason. You can get 10% off Adidas, Champion, Columbia. You can get gift accessories when we take Shane out the tailgate. When he actually needs his Hall Pass.
Let's do it.
Alumni Hall is the place to be. Is that okay, Shane?
No doubt to me about that.
And you know who he also doesn't have to see since we were just messing with him about his car?
What's that?
He doesn't have to go see Dingman's.
That's true.
But he is missing Darcy.
He got that new whip.
He did. And on a funny thing is they didn't have to end up fixing his taillight because he got a new car.
Yeah.
And Dingman's has 5 locations locally. Family owned and operated over 25 years. Just kind of I like it.
Yeah.
Right. You never want to have to go see collision repair folks.
Right.
But they also do oil changes on a Humbug. You don't have old vehicles, so oil changes probably aren't high on your.
I mean, I got to make sure I get them done still.
Your radar.
Got to maintain.
But Shane was telling a funny story, speaking of Dingman's, that he was enjoying his new purchase.
Yeah, yeah.
He was afraid to tell us, but Shane went out to his vehicle. If Dingman's has to see before you get that thing licensed, Shane, you're in trouble. He sat out in his Shane, go ahead. Explain.
I didn't sit out in my vehicle.
Explain to the fine folks listening.
I went out to my garage. I took a lawn chair out there, and I just sat in the garage, and I just vaped and looked at my vehicle.
You're like, man.
Oh, so you weren't sitting in the vehicle?
Nah.
Oh, see, I thought you were sitting in the vehicle.
I wouldn't vape in the vehicle.
Okay.
So I was just sitting out there, just looking at the vehicle.
So you got a lawn chair, opened the garage.
Yeah.
You sat in front of your garage.
No, I sat in the garage.
And just looked at the vehicle?
Yeah. Why not? I mean, don't. If you had, I mean, it's a new vehicle for me, so why wouldn't you do it? I mean, and a lot of people do that with older cars and stuff like that. I'm sure, like if you have like a '67 Camaro or something like that, which I don't have, but I kind of felt like, I probably won't ever have that chance. So here's like my one chance to do something like that.
That's cool, man. You don't spend a ton of money.
Yeah.
You spend $30 a month on groceries. You were like, I bought this with my hard-earned money. You're going to enjoy your purchase.
We had a host that was in the former life, G Sharp, who was on me for like 2 years to buy a new coat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, he was just on me, just railing me like.
Sounds like something he would do.
Just railing me, buy a new coat, I don't want to buy a new coat. I want to save for a vehicle. And that was like 4 years ago.
And you got it.
Finally got it.
I'm surprised you let them hang on to your deposit for so long. Because would they have it for 5 days?
Well, it was inevitable. I mean, it was just going to happen.
He didn't even get it.
It was inevitable.
Like Infinity War is inevitable, or a different kind of inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, just flick of the.
What stone was the car buying purchase?
Well, was it the green one with the Doctor Strange?
The time stone?
Yeah, the time stone.
I don't know. This feels like a power stone move for Shane.
It's a total power stone.
It's a power stone move.
My man just went out in the garage with the lawn chair and looked at his vehicle.
Listen, I like that.
I kind of do too.
There's not a lot of people that can be content just with that level of just chilling.
I didn't have a stereo going on or anything.
See?
Like that.
Yeah.
Just chilling, just vaping, just going, yeah. That's
God bless.
And it wasn't like 5 minutes.
God bless Bill, Chris, and Hurrdat.
It wasn't like 5 minutes. It was like for like 3 hours.
For 3 hours?
Would you stop? Are you serious?
Yeah, it was like 7 to 10 or something like that.
You lost me on the 3 hours.
Something like that.
That's a long time to just stare
Well,
at the clock.
I had to go back.
I don't know whether to be like, or what?
It wasn't like straight 3 hours because I had to go back in and fill the vape up, and then go back out there.
No, that's pretty much 3 straight hours, though.
So you sat out there and admired your lifelong hard work and purchase for 3 hours,
which I'm proud of you, by the way.
I am too.
I'm not hating on that, and I'm not hating on loving the new car because I'm all about that. 3 hours is a little aggressive.
So you know what it is?
It was relaxing.
So Shane, he doesn't really know the backstory of the corners, like the sacrifices you make, right? You go to the good. You buy. You're a very thrifty spender.
Very thrifty.
So I've talked to him a little bit about it. Like I know some of it.
Like okay, I kind of want to give you a hug. I think you're a little weird, but I can respect the hustle though. All right, that's not bad.
I mean, there's got to be somebody else out there that has done that.
I was thinking like an hour. Like I was thinking, like
I've seen some people like they get a new house
hour.
or something. They'll sit out on the deck and they'll look at it. Oh, honey, we made it, or whatever. Like I could see that.
I get that.
I could see that. That's all right, man. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, I'm gonna go back over to my bird
A little
cage.
weird, but thank you for sharing. Let's go to Kim on line 1. Kim, good morning. How are you?
Hello.
Oh, hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm good.
I see your meatball.
Did you like my surprise?
I did.
Yeah.
So can I do full disclosure? And it's Shane's world. We're just living in it. He pulled the foil back. I feel like I didn't watch if he put his face in it, but I'm a little taken aback. He pulled the foil back and kind of peeked.
Why are you taken aback by that?
I don't know. It's like have you ever purchased something at a store? Somebody got you something
good.
and they open the sandwich for you and they're like, "Oh, what'd you get?"
I
and you're
just
like,
wanted to open it up to let a little bit more of the aroma out so I could smell it.
Shane or Kim, isn't he something? He's ours. We claim him.
He and I have the same car color. What does that say?
So that was weird I didn't even know that thing. They made that color anymore.
I'm the one that started the trend. What do you think?
Well, his old one. So his old vehicle, Shane. What year was that?
The old vehicle was 2007.
Yeah, I didn't think they still made that color.
Kim, I think it went away for a while.
Did you pick that color because it's close to Creighton, or what? What was going on?
No, because I don't want to be like anyone else with the white, the red, the black.
Oh, Lord.
We are like kindred folk here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. And Shane
and you tore her foil, which is driving me crazy. I feel like we got to rewrap it, Kim.
Let's get over that.
How long did those meatballs take you? Because we wanted to say thank you.
How long did they take me to make?
Yes. Yeah.
Or what?
Yes.
Well, I made 100.
Wow.
So it
That's a lot
took
of
Sunday. One afternoon. The sauce cooks for like 12 hours.
Oh, you're that person.
Okay.
Well, of course.
What goes into the whole Sicilian thing? What goes into a 12-hour sauce?
Why would I tell you that?
It's a family secret.
Huh.
It's my own creation.
Okay.
Well, did you try? I know you're not a big red sauce person, Damon, but did you try it?
Well, I'm going to. I didn't have any silverware on hand.
Damn it, I almost... Oh, sorry.
No. We have a ton out there. I mean, we're at a restaurant.
I know. That's why I was going to bring some, but yeah, I'm sorry I cursed there.
That's okay. No. Have you not heard Matt Burzel?
I would say that one's okay on the radio, Kim. You're all right.
Yeah. Like Matt Burzel. Wait. Ravi didn't try any yet either?
I haven't. No. I was going to wait till after the show.
Ravi was very disappointed in his breakfast, so I guarantee you he'll be trying.
Yeah, I was. I tried something new for breakfast, Kim, and it was it let me down.
I will tell you the best way to eat those meatballs is to get some, and I'm going to do a shameless plug here. The Quartier makes a blue cheese baguette.
Oh. Whoa.
You
okay.
toast up the blue cheese baguette, throw a couple meatballs and sauce, That's what we had for dinner last
meatball
night.
sub, huh?
All right, Kim.
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate you. You stop by and see us anytime.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. I don't know how you guys, but there's 20. So, by the way, did anybody else notice that Shane and I are the same height?
Yeah, that was weird. When he ran to let you in, I was like, "Oh, that's cute." Too bad she's spoken for us.
Yeah, but I do love Shane, so he knows that.
We do too. Thanks, Kim. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah. Thanks.
Shane was giddy. That's the only time. Sauter and some of these guys that have to come in early, Jacob Padilla, he makes wait at the door. He met Kim out at the front door.
Yeah.
That was cute, Shane.
Before she got out of the car, I think he was out there.
Just so you know, like if I had a house,
oh, here we go.
Like my man cave would probably be the garage. I would hang out in the garage a lot.
Yeah. So I picked Shane up for work once. It was snowing, and I went to go get him. Imagine that, me picking somebody up in inclement weather, right? And his garage was the only one shoveled.
Really?
And I said, "Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
They gave you a way to get out." And he goes, "Complex didn't do that. I did." You love your garage. Do you have heated lamps in there and stuff?
I have it's very well lit. It's pretty clean. It's pretty organized. I like the garage.
Shane, you're the best.
Fair enough.
Come back. Zipline's got a 6-pack of questions for us because sometimes Shane talks like he's drunk. Back after this on Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Time now for the Sports Six Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
Gosh bless Zipline. And this segment, Shane, how do the questions look?
They look pretty good.
Did anybody ask you why you just parlayed in the garage for 3 hours admiring your compass?
Nobody asked that.
Did they ask how many Easter Island gecko eggs you found on your car?
They didn't ask that either.
Did you tell anybody that you, Ravi, and myself went out to actually find Easter eggs on the respective Jeeps yesterday?
I did not.
That was weird.
A little bit.
You only had like 2 or 3 people come out and ask what the heck was going on.
That's because that was everyone that was here at the time.
Yeah.
There was
it's early, and we're like wondering, like, they're like, Ravi, isn't this your truck? Like, what are you investigating? You're like, I'm trying to find eggs.
You're like,
and you found a couple.
Yeah. Well, Shane found a couple.
I just don't understand why you wouldn't like to look at your vehicle.
Oh gosh.
If you had a classic vehicle, would you admire it?
Yes.
Yeah, and what would that classic vehicle be? What would you?
Well, my favorites that I've been in are the Cadillac sedan, the 2-door, the coupe. I love my. Remember my bullet silver? It was like brushed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like that gunmetal gray?
Cherokee was fantastic.
Those are really good looking.
I had it with the black wheels and the black tent.
Oh, that's like one of my faves.
But I guess if I had my druthers, I would get like an SLK, maybe.
Ooh, okay.
And some people, like
I'm more of a sedan guy than
are
an
you?
SUV. Yeah,
100% SUV guy for me.
But I only got it because I inherited spare luggage known as kids, so I needed a 3rd row seat. But I had been a sedan guy till 2013.
Just kind of like cruising.
Yeah.
And some guys,
and I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah.
And some guys might be admiring their vehicle or whatever if they're out like cleaning it, detailing.
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
It's the same.
It's the same idea.
Same idea.
I've kind of been feeling Land Rovers lately.
Yeah.
Like I test drove one before I got my wife's new car, and a used one. And I was like, man, this isn't a smart buy, so I'm not going to do it, but I'm kind of feeling the Range Rover. So maybe someday.
Shano, question?
Question number 1.
Take it or leave it. Golden State goes farther than the Lakers.
You're just pitting us against each other today, huh?
Would it be better if it was just take it or leave it, Golden State?
Yes. No. I swear I'm not just doing this to appease you. I think I trust the Lakers a little bit more right now. And a lot of it's the road struggles for Golden State.
I like the Lakers' depth. I like their bench, even though Austin Reeves is kind of feeling himself right now.
Maybe a little too much sometimes.
Yeah, he was getting met at the rim last night. But at least he's putting it on the deck, right? You got to be willing to do that to show your versatility.
And to open some things up,
Right? So I'll take the Lakers.
Yeah. I trust them a little bit more.
Question number 2.
Is watching spring games an inaccurate indication in your opinion?
Depends on what you mean by inaccurate. I think it's hard to take real things from a spring game. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, right? Where there's certain things you're looking at where you say, hey, I think this translates. I think this is portable. I think it's a mistake to take any maybe wholesale takeaways or painting with too broad of a brush.
Will Tanner Mordecai throw 3 interceptions in the opener?
Well, that's what I mean. Do I want to go and say,
Nebraska put it on the carpet 6 times?
Probably not, right? I hope, knock on wood, hope not, right? But, I'm not going to go and say, the air raid's not going to work in Wisconsin because look how bad that spring game was. But you can maybe say, maybe there's going to be a little bit of transition to the Big Ten for Tanner Mordecai. Like, I think those are two different things, but you can make a little takeaway. Does that make sense?
They got a lot of good quarterbacks in the portal. I'm surprised everybody's resting on the fact that he's the guy.
Well, for now he is.
Yeah,
for now.
Is it inaccurate or accurate?
I think it's incomplete is the word I would use.
Yeah, I would say to some degree, but I think there's some takeaways you can get in spring.
Yeah, I agree.
I do know that Colorado needs players.
That's pretty obvious. I don't think you're going to roll out there with 30.
Where's Montana Lamonius Craig wind up?
I don't know, but he's a guy that I think a lot of teams should want.
That was a cold shot. How long was his goodbye? That was wild.
Yeah.
I had to get my readers. Shano,
the zoom in button.
Question
Real
number
talk.
3.
Rank the offseason hires in retrospect. Rule, Sanders, Fickle.
Ooh.
Huh.
So full disclosure, in the moment, I would have put Fickle 1. Because in the hiring cycle, I liked him the best.
And a lot of people will tell you when they thought it may go south in Carolina with Rule that Fickle became the guy.
Yeah, I was told from pretty good authority if it didn't work out with Rule that they were ready to negotiate with Fickle, which tells me that there was interest from Fickle there as well. That's what the indication.
You
to
got
me
to draw
would be.
your own conclusions.
But it's hard for me to separate what I feel about Rule now from how I.
So Dion's just all the way out because you remember that low murmur, and then it turned into Nebraska would never hire a guy like Dion. They're not ready for Dion, but we kind of contemplated the option.
Yeah, briefly, it seemed like it was one of the
fleeting as the kids.
Well, everybody had their day that it was like, it's Bronco Mendenhall day and whatever, right? Dion for me is third because he has the most questions, not just around his roster, but as a coach. We've seen the least amount from him. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So to me, it's between Rule and Fickle. I really, really like Rule, and I like the hire more now than I did even at the time. I think I maybe still just edge Fickle 1-2.
Does Dion have more questions than me? I only have 6.
Yeah, he's got about 50 of them.
For what we needed, I'm going to take Rule 1.
So I think Rule is a better fit at Nebraska.
I'm going to take.
I do.
I'm going to take Coach Rule 1.
I do. Yeah, I'm not going to fight.
But I do love.
I love Luke Fickle.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Mark my words. His defensive staff,
really good.
They're fantastic.
Really, really good.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Question number 4.
And that's coming from a guy that called Tony White Nebraska's MVP.
Yeah.
Who takes the first snap for NU at running back?
Oh, Lord.
Ooh. I mean, I think the safe answer is Anthony Grant.
Really?
I do.
I feel like they're trying to cram Gabe Irvin down our throats.
Maybe, but I mean, if you look at the carries,
I'm shocked you say that. What if you're right, though?
I think sometimes we overthink these things. I think they like Gabe Irvin. I think they like A.J. Allen. I think they like a lot of their guys in that room, but it's hard to look at a guy that's returning with 900 rushing yards that has fixed some of the things that you asked him to fix and not say, yeah, that's kind of our guy until proven otherwise. I don't know that anyone else has done enough to prove otherwise at this point.
I will go. I'll go Gabe Irvin.
Okay.
I hate playing it safe. I'll go Gabe Irvin.
All right, question 5. I know we got to get rolling here. Best playoff sporting event to watch live, college or pro?
In the college ranks or the pros?
To watch live?
Yes.
I'm definitely going. I swear by this. You're gonna be like, dude, you idiot. I'm going NHL playoffs.
Oh, I won't. No, I've never been to a live NHL playoff game, so I can't really speak to it. But I wouldn't poo-poo that. I know how great the atmosphere is. Not just hockey games in general are great live, but NHL is a whole nother level with their playoffs. Man, I would probably say I mean, my favorite TV product is March Madness, so I'm just going to go March Madness. I know he said live, but it's my favorite thing.
Okay, and question 6, what side of the ball needs more talent to win in college football?
Needs more talent to win?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a tricky question for 30 seconds left. Do you?
God, I look at USC and I say defense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at Georgia and I still say defense.
I think I want to say defense. I think you can scheme around some things on offense.
Isn't that weird, though?
Yeah.
Because we think it's all about offense.
Especially when we say skill position players, right?
And defense is like cavemanish.
Yeah.
See ball, tackle.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to say...
I think it's defense.
I'm going to say defense, too.
It's harder to scheme around bad players on defense.
I'm kind of with Ravi. It's supposed to be 2023 in an offensive game. I'll say defense. Hey, fantastic show. We're back to do this again.
Let's go.
We got a lot to cover. Busy week of sports. We won't let you down. It's Coffee and Cream.